All right, everyone, welcome to the Tuesday edition of Reality Check. It's Tuesday now here on Reality Check and on the home of Black Talk Media, none other than WURD. Welcome to the program. You are listening to us live on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV and WURD app. Welcome back. Good to be back. Day two after being away for more than a week's worth of Reality Check programming. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your host, executive producer, also creator of Reality Check here on WURD. And let's just open up the phone lines. We're going to have the phone lines open for the next hour here on Reality Check. Phone lines are wide open. So 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065. At the top of this 10 o'clock hour, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. So want to hear what's on your mind. Want you to be the subject matter experts for the next hour. Let me know what's on your mind. Tell me what I missed. Tell me what I missed in that whole week that I was gone. That it was like a weekend, like a day worth of Reality Check program. I know I missed some stuff. So go ahead and tell me what I missed or what you think I missed. 215-634-8065. 866-361-0900 as we're talking to Philadelphia and beyond. You listen to us in Philadelphia proper on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, whether you're driving around or you got that old school radio in your house and you're listening to us on the AM FM dial, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, or you're streaming us, whether you're in the Philadelphia region, you might even be beyond. Many of you are throughout the nation, throughout the world at WURDradio.com, WURDradio.com. Also, don't hesitate to join us on our WURD TV live streams. That's at Facebook.com/4WURD and YouTube.com/onWURD. Facebook.com/4WURD, YouTube.com/onWURD. You can leave all kinds of comments. I think you can do that at YouTube as well now, but people tend to do it quite a bit at our Facebook live stream, our WURD TV Facebook live stream at facebook.com/4WURD. Don't hesitate to do that. And also there is the WURD app, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Officially, we are at, and I'm hoping that Philadelphia is not becoming numb to this, and I hope a number of other cities that are going through it are not becoming numb to this as well, because we need some real urgency and we need some real response and action around it. But let's talk about Philadelphia first, because in terms of per capita victimizations or per capita injuries from shootings and per capita deaths from violence, Philadelphia is actually at the top of that list. 305 murders officially, 305 murders officially so far in 2021. So Philadelphia has now surpassed, as far as we can see, we have some records of year-end homicide victims or full annual homicide rates. We have those records going back, what we can see right now, going back to 2007. So in 2009, that was for the whole of 2009, it was 302 homicides. We're not even fully halfway through, or we're kind of just halfway through 2021, and we're at 305 homicides. 2010, it was 306. At the current rate, we're about to surpass the entire year of 2010, the homicides that took place then. Definitely, we've already surpassed the homicide rates, and at that time, people were probably anxious and nervous and feeling like, this is not good. These homicide rates don't look too good. But we've already surpassed the homicide rate in 2013. It was 246 homicides for that full year. I'm just giving you some context. In 2014, it was 248 homicides. In 2015, it was 280 homicides. In 2016, it was 277 homicides. Just 3 years ago, 2017, it was 315 homicides, but at the current rate we're about to surpass that. So we've surpassed multiple full years of homicide rates. and we're not even extra deep into the summer yet. That is happening in Philadelphia. I don't know how to stress that more. I don't know how to emphasize that more. Um, one thing, well, two things that people, um, well, three things. All right, so let's kind of think this through because it's really time to have a discussion about how we spur action and response, and how we start trying to fix this. I guess the first thing that people really need to do is to not become numb to these sorts of numbers, not to become numb to this kind of uh, just apoplectic, it's just really disastrous violence that's wrecking the city at the moment. And I know that there are other people from other places that are listening in other cities and other black communities that are going through the exact same thing right now, going through high record rates of violence. So one is just not becoming numb to it. I mean, that's an action in and of itself. Not becoming numb to the violence and thinking that this is something normal. There's nothing normal about this. I feel like sometimes we have a mindset, particularly in our communities, where we feel like, well, this is just the way it is, particularly when we're in densely populated urban black communities. Well, this is just the way life is. No, life is not like this. This is not the way it should be. This is not the way it should be. People deserve a better quality of life, and people deserve, I don't care how poor or how destitute you feel, or how tight your finances are, what sort of zip code you live in. Everyone deserves kind of just some basic amenities as far as quality of life is concerned. No one deserves this kind of high level of violence where you have to be that anxious when you're walking outside your door. You have to even feel anxious inside your house because you're wondering, if a stray bullet's going to come through your house, or if someone's going to, if someone's targeting you or going to come into your house. No one should feel like that in places where they live. So this is we have to not get numb to this, and we have to resist the notion that this is normal, that this is the standard of living in communities right now that are being impacted by violence. Because that mindset is there. That notion is there. This is one of the main reasons, quiet as it's kept, because they're not going to tell you. This is one of the reasons why policymakers are slow on response, and they won't tell you this. There's some policymakers who are trying to get some action around this as fast, as expeditiously as they can. They are. There are some policymakers, state and local, federal. Their hearts really they have their hands tied behind their back on some levels, or they're trying to do the best that they can do. A few of those policymakers seem alone. They're probably the minority of policymakers at this point, because if there was a majority, if the vast majority of policymakers, of elected officials, really felt urgently about this, we'd see a lot more movement. We'd see a lot more investment. We'd see a lot more action than we're seeing right now. So, for example, I'm going to bring this up again, and I know that there are going to be people who either work for city council, who are on city council, who are going to be annoyed when I say this. Philadelphia City Council, other city councils too, and other places, should not be. I'm banging on the table right now because I'm enraged every time I think about this. Legislators, particularly on the local municipal level, should not be on anything called a summer recess right now. They should not be on a summer recess. Not when you are at 305 homicides. Not when you already surpassed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, nearly 7 different years of full annual homicide rates. Of full annual homicide rates. I'm pausing here so I don't let some profane terms slip out of my mouth. You should not be on anything called the Philadelphia City Council President, Darrell Clark. I'm talking to you. You should be ashamed of yourself for having an official summer recess going on or calling anything close to a summer recess. I don't care technically what that means. Optics and messaging and a sense of urgency mean everything in a crisis like this. So we have this majority black city council. We have nearly 90% of homicide victims of people being killed who are black. And we have the vast overwhelming majority, nearly 90% of non-fatal shooting victims who are black. And the majority black city council is on something called a summer recess. That is, you know, it's on some levels, it feels almost criminal. It's not technically criminal, but it feels criminal. There should be urgent, nonstop sessions going on, right, or at least give the impression of nonstop, ongoing work to get this thing solved and fixed in an all-hands-on-deck fashion as quickly as possible. But see, what's going to happen, and it's already starting to happen, is everyone's going to get back from, and you know, Philadelphia City Council is not the only one that's guilty of this. You have other places, other legislatures, lawmakers doing the exact same thing. You even have, you know, we have existential threats that we're facing as a democracy, as a society, on issues that are very, at very dangerous levels, on issues like voting rights, on issues like climate crisis. And you have people in Congress doing the exact same thing, taking breaks, taking summer breaks. It's just, you have to call it criminal, for one, lack of a better way to describe it, and two, as a way to avoid saying something profane on family-friendly media. It's that. So you see the same exact thing in Washington, D.C., as you're seeing in Philadelphia. Lawmakers really feeling the latitude in a crisis moment like this, because everyone wants to live their best life. I'm living my best life. I hear that constantly now. I'm so annoyed by that. I'm living my best life. You know, you ask somebody how they're doing. Well, I'm living my best life, girl. Like, the hell kind of best life you living if the world is burning up around you? I don't get that. So, you know, everyone's like, okay, got to get to the beach. Got to get, you know, and so, I mean, I understand that, you know, we take breaks here and there. I just took a break. But even when I was doing the break, I was like, you know, okay, just reset, refresh. I was still kind of working. Took a little break. Didn't take any breaks last year. And for, you know, everyone needs that recharge or reboot. But lawmakers and legislators get all kinds of ample opportunities because they have staff. I don't have staff. So, I mean, it's like I had to take a break because I don't have staff. I don't really have staff. I mean, well, I get the little backup I can, you know, from my man, executive producer Troy Wilmore, right? And, you know, outside of that, it's like, okay, had to take that kind of that week refresh reboot to come back, but still working and still trying to sort through and figure out strategies, ways to sort through and fix these challenges. But, you know, these are folks who are in these positions and they have to lead. They have to lead. We should not, the city of Philadelphia, this is not normalcy. The city of Philadelphia should not be at 305 homicides. And we're just in the month of July. That should not be. So we need to start, like, one, we need to understand that this is not a standard. Because, and just be honest, folks, be honest out there. You know, there's those of you out there who think that this is a standard, that this is just the way it is in these types of neighborhoods. This is just the way black folks are being, and this is that black folks will be like this. No, it's not a standard. It shouldn't be a standard. So once we establish that this is not a standard, the second thing is putting pressure on the policymakers, like I'm doing now with the tool, and because this is my space, this is my lane, this is my tool to project that urgency and to apply that pressure. And I'm hoping that everyone else out there listening, if you're a Philadelphia resident, if you're an Atlanta resident, you know, put some fire underneath your city council people and your mayor. If you're a Washington, D.C. resident, particularly if you live east of the river, know what's going on there. Saw the 6-year-old girl who got shot and killed over the weekend. on her scooter. I'm not sure exactly why her parents and why her family had her out there, was walking out there with her at 11 o'clock at night. That is a discussion that we need to have. Like, I don't understand why people are having their kids, their young, small kids, out late at night, particularly beyond like the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock hours, especially with what's going on. But, there's that. But that I saw that happen in places like Chicago. Also seeing high levels of that happening in New York or Los Angeles. Like, now's the time to put those demands and those pressures on your policymakers to act now, to not have any break on this. Like there has to be like nonstop work on it. So that's the second thing that'll have to happen. However, in doing that and pursuing that urgent action, we have to be smart about it. So we have to be very smart about it. So that's going to be important too, because sometimes, everyone's getting late to the table. Nationally, now we're starting to hear some national focus and emphasis on, oh, wow, there's a violence problem. Because we want to, we saw this violence problem bubbling up even before the pandemic. We saw it happening last year while there was a lot of focus on George Floyd and on police misconduct, police misbehavior, police violence. So there's a lot of focus on that. And but in the meantime, as that was going on, you had all this violence, and no one wanted to talk about that. It's like I said, now people are getting to the table late. And so they're doing this in terms of the response, you're seeing some lawmakers starting to do this in a very haphazard and very, very clumsy way. Where it's like, okay, well, let me show that I'm tough on crime. No, we don't need you to be tough on crime. We need you to just, we need you to be smart about it, and we need you to fix. We need you to fix the crime and all the various factors that contribute to those high levels of violent crime. We don't just need you to be tough on crime. We don't need performative policy response. That's essentially what that is. We don't need performative policy response. And too many elected officials have a habit of doing that, performative policy response, like of being, so, I mean, on one hand, you do have to show, because I know I might sound like I'm contradicting myself a little bit here, because I was just saying, you need to give the optics and the messaging, and that is important. But we don't want to find ourselves in a vicious cycle of performative, tough on crime, and then we go back to what we did back in the early to mid 90s. And then that creates all sorts of multi-generational consequences. We don't want to go back to it. So we learn lessons from that. We've accumulated the science, the evidence, and the data from that. So we know we can do things differently now. We know how to pinpoint the root causes of that. We know how to pinpoint the root causes of that violence and eliminate that violence even before it happens. We know how to do that. We know how to do that. So that's the third thing. It's like being smart about the crime, being smart about how we respond to the crime. The other thing too is putting other demands or having new conversations with public safety officials, with law enforcement agencies about things other than their misconduct. Let's start having a conversation, a really big conversation about their performance. Because when you have high levels of violence like this, and you have these generously funded law enforcement agencies who are existing in this massive, dangerous cycle of violence, something's not right. They're not doing their jobs. They're not performing. And so we have a situation here where there are very low levels of arrests that are happening and prosecutions as well. And so it's like having a discussion about performance. That discussion is with the law enforcement agency, and honestly, the discussion is also going to happen with the local prosecutor, with the DA as well. I understand where Larry Krasner is coming from, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, what more pressure can you apply as the DA to ensure that you're getting more cases, getting more arrest cases to prosecute, and then how much of a hawkish eye are we keeping on those prosecutions? So that also has to happen. The other thing too is keeping pressure on civic, community-based residential neighborhood-based organizations that call themselves on the front line of this crisis, really putting the pressure on them to do things differently. Because the way that they're doing things now, with the high level of violence that's happening now, I'm not sure it's enough, and two, it feels like there's a need. There's a real there's a real need here to do something differently. Like something's missing in the strategies, or the strategies that are being utilized right now have run their course. They've expired. So, okay, well, what are some other strategies that we need to implement? So, for example, I'm not hearing any conversation among violence prevention advocates about how are they centering environmental justice, climate crisis response, greening, beautification strategies, those types of, high-level green and relatively inexpensive strategies in violence prevention. And the other thing too is there's a couple of other things as well. Well, we'll take a break and then I'll go on for more. But as it so happens, the phone lines are open, 215-634-8065. So we'd like to hear from you. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open in case you hadn't heard. So let's take a break and we'll come back. You'll hear more from me. And then hopefully I get to hear more from you at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If you or a loved one is searching for a home care agency that provides care both needed and deserved, call My Independence at Home at 215-921-2277. Featured in Oprah Magazine, My Independence at Home is committed to quality, compassionate home care for the elderly and adults with both physical and intellectual developmental disabilities. Call 215-921-2277 today for a free in-home consultation, or visit us on the web at myiah.org.
Join Nick Taliaferro Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. for a very special simulcast conversation on WURD and WVON Radio in Chicago. Hosted by WURD's own Nick Taliaferro and WVON's Matt McGill and Kimberly E. Goen on the impact of violence in Philadelphia and Chicago. That's Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. exclusively on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com. Simulcast on WVON. Two of the only black-owned talk radio stations in the nation join forces for a powerful and timely conversation. The WURD Radio Newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting WURDradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio Newsletter.
Are you looking to hire diverse talent? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal to help connect you with diverse talent in Philadelphia and beyond. If you would like to have your jobs featured on our job portal, give us a call at 215-425-7875 or send us an email at sales@wordradio.com. Check out the job portal today on our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866 3610900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. Good morning to you, Raphael Suleiman. Raphael said, to Raphael Suleiman's point, because Raphael Suleiman makes this point all the time when I see him on WURD TV, when he responds to some of the conversation we have here on Reality Check, just being more thoughtful, applying a much more intellectual and think tank approach, and that's sorely lacking in the city, which is really ironic, right? Because we have all these world-class academic institutions that like to tout themselves, and the city loves to tout the fact and brag about. We've got all these like major top 10 universities or top 10, top 20, top tier universities that are in the city. Well, then use them, like, or at least show the public that you are using them, that you're accessing them, or figuring out, some kind of, some kind of very visible way that you're utilizing that kind of intellectual capital. That doesn't seem to be the case. It's like, just encouraging a much more thoughtful, intellectual, processed think tank approach, and or building think tank like institutions within places like City Hall and elsewhere. So, and that's I do agree with Raphael's point on that, and just demanding more intellectual heft, more intellectual muscle, and intellectual robustness from state and local leaders when they are trying to sort through the complexity of these different issues, because they are complex. It's not just as simple as, we've got a violence crisis, and so let's just put more police on the streets. It's not simple. It's much more complex than that, and so you're going to have to hit it. You're going to have to tackle it in multifaceted ways. So good morning to you, Raphael Suleiman. Elizabeth Taxit, hello. How are you doing? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that viewer, but welcome if it's your first time. Shirley J. Carter, good morning. Diane Fassett, good morning. How are you doing? Roberta McCartney, good morning. Shalata C.A. Sankofa, always good to hear some blessings from you. And good morning to you, Ernst Ford, greetings. April Lane, Brooklyn, New York City is one of the cities plagued with homicides. No, it's not normal. Thank you, April, for saying that. No, and Brooklyn it's gotten bad. And so, some people are saying that that's one of the reasons why you had the outcome in that recent mayoral race, mayoral primary, Democratic mayoral primary, retired police officer, also Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams won the Democratic mayoral primary. Folks presume he might become the next mayor, and he'll become the second black mayor of New York City. Roberta McCartney saying truth. Diane Fassett, I know, Charles, it's disgusting. The idea that Kenny has not declared a crisis in the city is criminal, in my opinion. So we got two things that are happening here that show lack of leadership and lack of vision and lack of visibility in the city of Philadelphia with respect to this violence crisis. You got the mayor, you got the guy at the top who's tapped out. Mayor Jim Kenney is tapped out. He's tapped out. I mean, I can only laugh not to get depressed about it. Jim Kenney is tapped out on this. So he won't call a state of crisis, although there is a state of crisis that's happening. And there are a number of reasons for probably why he's not calling a state of crisis, because, everyone's trying to get back into normal. And the city of Philadelphia wants to put a happy spin and a happy face on everything. Just like, for example, President Biden was trying to put a happy spin, happy face on, folks returning back. Folks getting vaccinated. Yeah, I want to get this number of people vaccinated by July 4th. And that's partly what leaders do, what presidents do. You're trying to encourage people. You're trying to, you have to, you got to wave those pom poms, and you got to give that pep talk and get people mobilized. But you don't do that by just ignoring things and just tapping out. The mayor is just tapped out. So he refuses to declare a crisis on the city. Just because, he's one of the reasons, I guess, they're trying to get more revenue drawn into the city, trying to get more tourists here. If you declare a crisis in the city of Philadelphia, then people are going to be afraid to move here. People are going to be afraid to visit here. So, that's partly what that stems from. But, doesn't help you to not acknowledge the crisis, not call a state of crisis, so you can rally the kind of emotion and the kind of resources you need to fix it in a fairly quick manner, so then you can get people to start moving then start, because people know that there's a crisis in Philadelphia. I mean, it's all over the nation that the violence crisis in Philadelphia is pretty bad. So I don't know why he's avoiding that. So you got that on top of, city legislators are kind of they're on recess. Philly Cleaning says, thanks for saying about the statement, living best life, because honestly, if we were living our Bay life, others would be more peace. Diane Fassett, I know, Charles, I can't take saying living my best life. Some people are seriously big denial and live on fantasy island like Trump, a reality show with no basis in reality. There's a lot of no basis in reality these days. Philly Cleaning saying, also, these groups, as well as I do, help with and report this graffiti problem. It deteriorates the look and block, doesn't it? And so, yes, let me go to Cliff out of Connecticut while we got the phone lines open, who's calling in for a reality check. Cliff, what's up?
Hey, Brother Charles, thanks for taking my call, and much respect to Brother Choi, the brother that takes the calls. I know
yes.
I probably make him get him frustrated at times, but he's a good brother, so shout out to him too. But listen, man, you were right on point in terms of what you were saying about, our black leaders, in terms of being accountable. And I truly believe there's two major issues that are impacting our community. And that's
it's not just black leaders, it's all leaders right now. It's all these elected officials.
Right,
but
right.
Go ahead.
But let me say this specifically, though. Democratic Party as well, since you mentioned that. And let me say this. Is that
and Republican Party as well. And Republican Party.
Well, we are. That
Democrats
goes,
and
my
Republicans.
point is that both parties are part of the same establishment. You know what I mean? In terms of not caring for
they're not the same,
our
Cliff.
people,
They're not the same establishment. They're not. I mean, Democrats, have, lack a lot of spine that we need them to exhibit at the moment. But, Republicans are the ones right now that on a large scale, on a broad macro scale, they're wrecking the country. I mean, they are the Confederates. And let's just be, let's be firm about that.
Okay,
let's establish that distinction, because it's like keep making this false equivalency. Oh, Republicans and Democrats, they're the same. They're not the same. It's like we need to force Democrats to do what they need to do, when right now they need to understand that they are the black and brown party and they need to get some things done. They're not getting some things done, but you know what? That's on us to force them to get some things done. While in the meantime, the Republicans are the Confederates. And they are literally in the process. I'll let you talk, Cliff, but just make this last point. They are literally in the process of dismantling the country, actively and enthusiastically dismantling things. And we need to acknowledge that and stop false equivaling, using false equivalency, making them seem like Democrats and Republicans are the exact same thing. They're not the exact same thing. I get irritated by that discussion. I'm sorry, Cliff. I know you're a smart brother, and I love having you on. I love talking with you. But I cringe on that false equivalency. All right, go ahead.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. You won, but I'm still going to stick with my guns. I'm going to say that. But nevertheless,
right.
here's
go ahead.
You are well informed. So here's the point I want to get at, okay?
Yeah.
Baltimore, Atlanta, New Jersey, Connecticut, Philadelphia, urban area. How are the guns getting in the black community? How are they being trafficking? In addition to that, the ammunition. You understand what I'm saying? And so if you're going to put the emphasis, and I'm just hearing in the Chicago news that they want to have a task force on gun trafficking, you want to do that now? You know what I mean? That's the whole point. We should have been doing this. Black people don't make these guns. How are they getting in our community? I'm going to
add this dimension to it, but I am going to add this dimension to it. Black people don't make these guns. We need to find out where the guns are coming from, but can black people stop picking up the guns? We had that conversation too. It's okay to have that conversation, y'all. It's some black folks out there, not the majority of black folks, it's a minority of black folks out there who keep picking up the guns. So can we figure out a way to encourage that minority of black folks in our communities to stop picking up them damn guns? So, I mean, let's have that conversation. Let's be honest with ourselves, and, because we're going to have to hold ourselves a bit accountable on these things too. So it's a both and on that. It's a both and on that.
A moral issue. And we need to deal with that. So, and then, matter of fact, I tell you what, to help better solve that problem, let's give the money to the Nation of Islam and black organizations, man. You know what I'm saying? That are known for having an impact, a positive impact in our community. Let's do that. Brother Solomon, he has a program. Give that money to that brother and let him do more work in terms of helping out our community. I'll take that money, forget the police department, give it to those blacks that are doing things. That might help. That makes a little bit of sense.
Okay, yeah, no, it does. I mean, in terms of, making resourcing those organizations and programs that are on the ground in the trenches, on the front line, doing that work. Well, we need more of that. How do we scale that up? So no, I think you're absolutely spot on with that, Cliff. Cliff, let me let you go. Let me go to Herc out of North Philly, calling in for a reality check. Herc, what's up?
Hey, what's up? How you doing this morning, brother?
All right, brother Hurt. All right, what's up?
Hey, man, you know, your show is always on point, man. I just love you from the bottom of my heart. I love all the work shows. I'm going to make it simple. With these guns, man, it's us. The parents have to check their kids. It's kids and guns. Kids and guns. It's just out of pocket. It's like they all go over anything and they say, I'm going to get my gap. So they have to start with us because ain't no white people going to come stop these guns laws. We keep killing each other, man.
No. So it's kids and guns, but it's also older people who are not adequately parenting the kids, and some older people out there too picking up the guns. Like we need to have that flesh out that conversation. I know some people are like, nah, you know, we need to talk about the gun. It's like, well, stop picking up the damn guns. we're figure out like what's the new kind of standard we need to establish for the minority of us out there who are perpetrating this kind of violence. Like we need to establish, we need to have a conversation about what's the new standard. I'm sorry, go ahead, Hurt.
But you're exactly right. I mean, you got to stop picking the damn guns up, man. I mean, kids, I don't know, man. But then, you know, I look at maybe this country is just under attack from the enemy of the, you know, because we've done so much bad things to these foreign countries. It's just sad, man. I see people all over a damn bag of chips in the store. I'm in line. I got the damn chips. A bag of chips. And then the guy sits back and says, well, I'll bust you in your ass. Over a bag of chips, because it's us.
Over a bag of chips.
Keep it to prayer, man. I love you from the bottom of my heart.
But I love you too. Love back at you, Hurt. We talk about the young people, but we also need to talk about the older people, folks from my generation, generations before, that are also responsible for allowing many of these young people to be led astray. We need to have that conversation. It's a tough conversation, a very uncomfortable conversation. But, you know, the kids didn't just like pop out of the womb and just start killing folks. Okay, like that's kind of the visual that some people are perpetrating here. Like that's not how it happened. It's like, you know, some of these young people out here who are perpetrating violence, and it's not the vast majority of young people, it's a minority of young people or a minority of folks in our community who are doing this. But, you know, when you have guns, you know, when you put guns into the equation, obviously that's you know, they're able to project in very loud ways and make it seem like, you know, that there's a lot more people who are involved in this. It's a minority of folks in the community who are exacting this kind of violence on us. But the young people learned it from somewhere. The young people learned, you know, certain young people learned these habits, picked up these kinds of, you know, bad conflict resolution skills from somewhere and from somebody. And so we need to start looking at ourselves as older people and as elders, like, what did we do wrong? What conversations weren't we having in our households? What weren't we doing on our blocks? How did certain parts of a generation get lost? We need to have that conversation. Okay, how do we fix that? How do we reverse that? Like, so, I mean, I understand, yes, we do need to have the conversation about, okay, the lack of resources, the need for new initiatives for like a Marshall Plan to revitalize, to refresh, to boot up and enhance these communities. We need to talk about like where the guns coming from. But then we also, on the flip side, we also need to talk about the things we're not doing. Those of us in our communities who are being targeted by this violence, who are like in the middle, in the thick of it, like what do we need to do? What are we supposed to do? What are we not doing? Summer is a perfect time to come out and come up. If you're looking for a new job, you've got to check out our new livelihood job portal. Some of Philadelphia's top companies want you. Our WURD listeners to apply, so we've got jobs in marketing, customer service, tech, and more. Go to the livelihood job portal right now to check out jobs and apply at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com, and click jobs. Also, if you don't know already, just an announcement from the Philadelphia Public Health Department. They are spraying larvicide for mosquitoes in North Philadelphia. Philadelphia Department of Public Health's vector control staff will be applying a new larvicidal treatment for mosquito control on Tuesday. That's today, this evening, after midnight in the area around 5th and Diamond Street. So if you see people spraying some stuff, that's what that is, and they need to do it. Please let them do that because mosquitoes are infectious and they can get deadly. And we got enough infectious disease going around as is. So that's what that is. If you see that happening around 5th and Diamond in North Philly tonight, It's the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. There's no conspiracy or anything else going on. It's just trying to eliminate the mosquito population, and that is important. Let me go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back with phone lines open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break. Phone lines are open. We'll be right back.
Berger Montague is a Philadelphia-based plaintiffs' class action law firm committed to helping Philadelphia's black community. Berger Montague maintains a strong commitment to fostering diversity and equity throughout the legal community and in society in general. In 2020, Berger Montague filed a pro bono case against the IRS when they refused to send COVID-19 stimulus checks to federal benefits recipients with dependent children. Thanks to Berger Montague, people across the United States were able to obtain dependent benefit checks that they desperately needed. Berger Montague supports WURD Radio and Philadelphia's black community. For more information about Berger Montague Law Firm, please call 215-875-3033 or email at info@bm.net.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. With so much uncertainty surrounding the upcoming school year, now is the time to take charge of your child's education and give them the tools to make learning fun and safe. Check out Commonwealth Charter Academy, which can make a difference in your child's life. Commonwealth Charter Academy, or CCA, is a K-12 public cyber charter school with nearly 20 years of experience providing a flexible, stable, online education in the comfort of your home. Enroll today at ccaeducate.me. Your child will receive 1. A world-class accredited education streamed directly into your home at no cost to you. 2. A laptop, headphones, assistance with accessing the internet, and learning materials, all provided at no cost to you. 3. A safe learning environment with no bullying or security concerns. Join the nearly 2,500 students from Philly who already attend CCA. The school year begins September 8th. Enroll now at ccaeducate.me.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
I heard the COVID-19 vaccine has...
And the thing I heard about the vaccine...
Sure, but do we really know about the long-term effects?
Did you read that thing on the internet?
He heard from his cousin that they don't...
Okay, you're hearing a lot of talk about the COVID-19 vaccines these days. So how do you find out if getting vaccinated is right for you? By talking to someone you already trust, your doctor or healthcare provider. They'll answer your questions so you can decide what's best for you and your family. Go to getvaccineanswers.org to find out more. That's getvaccineanswers.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour. That's also now starting. This year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, Northwest, and South Philly. Tiffany Bacon, our programming director, will broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Our next stop is North Philly's Penrose Playground, 1101 West Susquehanna Avenue, Friday, July 23rd. So this Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, we're going to Penrose Playground. That's where we'll be. 1101 West Susquehanna Avenue, and that's Friday, July 23rd. Enjoy a special feature on the Summer Olympics. The Summer Olympics in Tokyo start on Friday evening. Meet special guests and stand with WURD. Be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of this black community. Show your support and join or renew your WURD membership while you're on site. And join us as we broadcast from the Recreation Center at Penrose Playground from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. WURD, showing love this summer, our Summer of Freedom Tour that's coming up. Go to WURDradio.com for more information on that. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let me go to Ms. Pat out of West Philly calling in for a reality check. Ms. Pat?
Yes, good morning, Charles. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Ms. Pat. How are you doing?
Happy Tuesday. We really missed you. My friends tease me because I invite them to come to class. I call your show a class.
It's a class? Oh, wow. Thank you.
So my friend said we're on vacation for a week, because you weren't there, so we were out of class for a week. But anyway,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to talk a little bit about politics. Do we hear anything about who's going to be the next mayor, the next governor? You know, who's up for re-election when it comes to council? I mean, it must be nice to have the whole summer off and be paid for it. Like, their offices are not open. Nobody's answering phones. I mean, I don't understand how you can be a government official and not have responsibilities, especially when our city's in crisis. I don't understand that, especially with children who need education and politics that could be in their offices answering phones and, you know, sending requests via text or whatever needs to happen. So I just need to know, how do we get rid of some of the council people? When are they reelected? And also, when are they going to open up council in City Hall so that we, and I mean a lot of us, want to
I think September when they come back. I think they'll be back as far as I know. But you know, the other thing too is we got this Delta variant situation. So I don't know what things are going to look like when we get into the fall. But as far as we know, the plan is to go back physically in September.
Oh, that's their plan. So the next time you talk with them, they will be open for guests to come to their chambers and talk to them about politics and things like that.
I hope so. They'll probably, I don't want to speculate around that too much. I would guess, I mean, my best guess is that, you know, there could be still some limitations in terms of social distancing, and people are going to have to mask up, of course. And, you know, once again, you know, there's that uncertain future. I mean, we may need to go back into some lockdown situations if these variants surge and it becomes a problem in terms of breakthrough infections.
And that's another issue council needs to deal with, the fact that people aren't vaccinated. They need to be here to enforce and to encourage people. I mean, you know, a lot of people believe these politicians are like superstars. So, you know, if they say go get a shot, they'll go get a shot or whatever. But I
need to be more aggressive about that. I agree.
Like we were left hanging by our toes when council, especially during these times of crisis, they just kind of left us alone, and we're on our own. And I think it's unfair. Not that we should, you know, go by every word that they say, but we certainly would like to see some leadership. That's why they're there. So I'm just so disappointed in the city of Philadelphia. And a lot of people that I know, and I'm a senior, you're actually leaving Philadelphia. I mean, it's really sad. I mean, I've had 4 friends of mine who decided to leave. They cannot take it. It's too much stress. And they just, you know, their health is in jeopardy. So they decided to sell their homes and leave. And that's sad. That's really sad.
Yeah, it is really sad.
Thank you for taking my call, y'all.
Yeah. No, thanks so much, Ms. Pat, for calling and being honest about that. You know, I understand that, you know, people in certain positions and certain capacities, even all of us, you know, you need that, like, short break from time to time. You need to reboot and refresh. I understand that because, you know, you can't get to a point where you're running on empty, you know, where you haven't. And so, you know, elected officials need that. They need that. And I'm saying this as someone who's worked for very busy elected officials, and they all need that break. But, you know, you got to figure out a way to, I mean, when you have the staff and the resources, I'm keep hearing from people where they're saying, and I would like to hear from more people. Ms. Pat's not the only one, but I hear from a lot of people, from a lot of folks, whether it's on air calling in or just reaching out to me kind of individually, saying that they're having trouble, that they feel like you should not have a situation where your residents, where your constituents feel like you're on a break. And the sense is that, you know, so the counter argument to my argument about the summer recess thing is, no, we're still in business. We're still open for business. Residents, a lot of residents and constituents out there don't get that sense. So something's amok, and that shouldn't be. So, like, find your week, maybe week and a half or so, you know, if you're a city leader, to take your break, do it quietly, but make sure your staff is leveled up. Put some kind of rotation in place. I've been in these kinds of situations in these kinds of offices. I've worked for some smart public officials, and they set up situations 365 days a year where they make sure it's like they give the sense that they're operating for their constituents 24/7. You got to figure out like a plan, or you have to figure out an innovative, creative plan for that, so that you can instill confidence. There is that the one thing that's also killing Philadelphia, and that exacerbates this violence crisis, is lack of confidence. There is a very severe and I you know, this is why we rant on about city leadership. City leadership should be very concerned about this. This is not about, smoking you or throwing shade at you just for the sake of doing that and having some fun, and getting some kibbles and giggles out of it. I know some people like to do that. They like to just talk about people. They like the melee. As the Caribbean people they like the melee, right? So it's not that. For me, it's I'm warning you. You don't need this level of lack of confidence from your constituents. You got to sort that out. Mr. Mayor, you got to sort that out. Mr. City Council President, you got to sort that out. Esteemed members of the Philadelphia City Council, you got to sort that out. Legislators, elected officials everywhere else around the country, you got to sort that out. When your residents and constituents have such thick, low levels of confidence in your ability to lead, that should be something that concerns you and worries you deeply. That's not something you should dismiss and ignore. It's not, because then that cripples the city. That's one of the reasons people don't want to say that, but that's one of the reasons why Philadelphia is so crippled too, because people don't have confidence. So we don't have like a collective residential constituent confidence in the city's ability to lead. Things fall apart. Let me go to Jacob out of Alney, who's calling in for a reality check. Mr. Jacob.
Brother, peace be unto you, Brother Charles. How you doing?
Peace. How you doing,
all right,
Brother Jacob?
Amen. I'm blessed. First, I'd just like to say Eid Mubarak to the Muslims in the area, because this is one of the holiest days on the Islamic calendar.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Okay. For those who don't know, what is that, Jacob? School us on that.
Well, it's called Eid al-Adha, and it's corresponding with the people being on Hajj in Mecca right now, and the story of Abraham.
I didn't know that. Okay.
When Abraham was told to sacrifice his only son, Ishmael, right? The one that he had by the black slave, Hagar. He was told, after not being able to have children and an older man, God did bless Abraham with a son, right, from this black woman. And to show faith, Abraham had a vision that God wanted him to sacrifice this son to show that I really believe and thank you, right? And he went to do it, but it was shown in the story that God sent an angel to say, nah, you proven yourself. You were going to do it. I know that. But instead of sacrificing a human being, there's a ram that's caught in the thicket there. Sacrifice that in its place. So, I mean, it's a lot of stories. The bottom line is, in other words, this is the day that we really give thanks that we are in this realm of things with a good common sense human mind, and so it's just one of the days that we give thanks. And again, religious people all over do it in different seasons, and it's whenever you give this unseen power we call God, the force, may the force they be with you. When you can recognize this thing, then that's a good thing. But anyway, and I'm glad you separated when a person called and said there ain't no difference in the Republicans and the Democrats. Oh, no, come on, man. Stop playing, because I hear people say, like, oh, there ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed. The same. Come on, man. Stop playing. First of all, our community changed. If it wasn't no more than that. We used to love one another, right? We used to respect one another and our people. That changed, right? So stop saying things that don't, Reggie Bryan used to say, one of our ancestors, it ain't what you know that make you sound foolish, it's what you know that just ain't so, okay? So we need to think about things before we say it. Look, it was a saying that you can take the people out the country, right, but you can't take the country out the people, right? We're going to have to teach the ugliness of what guns do in our community to our people, the pain that it brings, the mothers, the fathers, the sisters, the brothers, right? And teach the people. I heard Minister Farrakhan say years ago, and it was real simple the way he said it. say, for instance, you got a Muslim community, and in this community is just mostly Muslims. It's centered around the mosque that they built. Now, if someone come and open up a store that sold pork, right, they're not going to get no play. They're not going to be fed. That store won't survive. Anything that's living and thriving, if you don't feed it, it's going to die. That's why we're talking about these shots with this coronavirus, right? That coronavirus needs some hosts, right? Needs something they can get on to feed on. And if you take that away, that virus dies, right? So, man, look, we on it, our community, and, you know, it was a saying when I was in church, we used to say it as a young boy, God don't place a burden on you greater than what you can bear, right? We got this. We're going to work it out in time, but we're going to, like you said, roll about. And we know leadership now. Like you said, we know what you ain't doing. I don't care what your name is, from the mayor to whatever. We are watching. Mary Mason said years ago, she's been telling us, keep a scorecard. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, we do. We do. Hey, Brother Jacob, I got to let you go. Unfortunately, I was really tuning into what you were saying, so I appreciate you calling this morning. But I went a little bit over time, so unfortunately I got to let you go. So let me go to break. When we come back, I think we have Mike Green coming up next, and phone lines do remain open if you'd like to join in on that conversation. Our in-house Reality Check WURD contributor, Mike Green, coming up next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com. WURD TV, WURD app. Keep that scored card. We will be right back.
Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour. This year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, North, West, and South Philly. I'm Tiffany Bacon. I will broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Our next stop is Penrose Playground, 1101 West Susquehanna Avenue, Friday, July 23rd. Enjoy a special feature on the Summer Olympics, meet special guests, and stand with WURD. Be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of the Black community. Show your support and join or renew your 4WURD membership on site. That's the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour at Penrose Playground from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. WURD, showing love this summer.
The WURD Radio Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Comcast and supported by Pico, Keystone First, and Ready Set Philly.
Between family dinners, bedtime stories, and study sessions, Pico knows that life never stops moving. So if you need help paying your energy bills, there are financial programs available, like the Customer Assistance Program, or CAP, that offers a monthly credit that can lower your gas and electricity payments. Learn how Pico can help keep your life moving with CAP. See if you qualify at pico.com/CAP.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Are you looking for a job? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal featuring jobs from some of Philadelphia's leading companies and arts organizations. If you go to the portal right now, you will see jobs from WURD Radio, the Kimmel Center, Her Foods, Always Best Care, and more. Apply for a job today. Go to our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, so we're going to bring Mike Green back with us. It's good to talk with him. Good to see him again. Mike Green, cultural economist, also founder, co-president of the National Institute for Cultural Competitiveness. And you can go to NIICUSA.org, if I'm not mistaken, for more conversation, more information on that. At a Mike Green 2 on social media, on Twitter. And he joins us regularly here on Reality Check WURD. Phone lines are open in case you'd like to join in on the conversation. As always, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Mike Green, what's good? Good to see you.
How you doing, Charles?
All right, all right. You know, Mike, I did want to ask you about critical race theory. You know, and that's a conversation that seems to be ongoing. It's not going to lose any steam, especially as we head into a new and uncertain school year, right? You know, people being very anxious about going back to school, you know, going literally back into classrooms. But now we have this CRT discussion. First of all, I would love to get your perspective, because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this yet. What you think or what you see critical race theory is, how do you define it?
Well, you know, I try not to define things for other folks. The folks who actually created this idea of critical race theory did it back in the 70s. And this was, you know, largely in academic circles. These were professors who were studying the centrality of race in systems, laws, policies, and practices that were ubiquitous around the country. So the centrality of race and racism in systems, laws, policies, and practices throughout the United States. Studying that is not controversial. And that's what they were doing. And what they were doing is coming up with these theories around why these issues of race and racism were embedded, ingrained throughout the systems that we take for granted every day. I'll give you an example. Real estate. Is racism ingrained in the history of real estate practices and policies in this country? Where anybody with a thinking brain would say, well, duh, yeah. Urban planning, you know, we zoning ordinances, racial covenants. I mean, this is not debatable. This is not even controversial. Yes. So then the question becomes for the academic researcher, well, what happened to those systems that were steeped in white supremacy, steeped in segregationist policies and practices, steeped in racism? What happened to them? Did they just magically disappear one day and everything was good? No, they're still with us today. And there's an evolution of these processes. Same thing, you take personal relationships, marriage. I mean, come on. I think Nevada was the last one to finally, Nevada was the first state to allow interracial marriages. You know, you had Loving versus Virginia. That's court processes having to try and right the wrongs of this country around just marriage, interracial marriage. So if you look at any system, any policy in this country, you're going to find racism hiding right beneath the surface. And that's what critical race theory says we ought to look at. And we ought to teach in our schools so that people will not say stupid things like, I don't see racism. There is no systemic racism. That's such a stupid. And I'm going to make a distinction here. That's not ignorant. Ignorant is not knowing things. We're all ignorant of things. Stupid is having knowledge and not using it.
Right. Yeah. That's a good distinction. Yeah.
So that's just, I mean, we hear stupid statements like that all the time. And the reason is because K-12 is not equipping the children of this country, particularly white children who are within a bubble of isolation. So they're not experiencing the negative impacts of racist systems and policies and practices that are all around, that are ubiquitous in the society. So when they come out of K-12 and they go into higher ed, and higher ed is guilty as well, they have very little understanding of the very systems that benefit them. They're beneficiaries of the status quo, and they can't even tell you how the status quo systems are impacting others negatively. They don't even know.
No, they don't. They're completely clueless, or it's a mystery to them, where they see these weird kind of bizarre things happening around them, or what they're feeling like weird, bizarre things. We know that they're not weird, bizarre, because we're actually we're being victimized by it. They can't understand it. They can't comprehend it. It gets back to that literacy question. The critical, when do you feel, Mike, that it became debatable, right? This notion that critical race theory was something foreign, that we shouldn't have it, that we shouldn't just establish or accept that, race and racism is fundamentally ingrained in everything that's American. It is as apple pie as American. So when did it suddenly become debatable, right? And I guess the other question is too, like, do we need to keep calling it critical race theory?
Well, it became demonized. It was politicized by the right-wing conservative political leaders, and that happened because the former guy, Donald Trump, lost his bid for re-election, and the insurrection was unsuccessful. So if you can't win at the polls, even when you cheat, and you can't overthrow by violence, even when you cheat, then you've got to come up with another strategy, and they did. And within a few months, they had determined that the education of children, namely white children, had to be protected. And when I say protected, keep in mind that all of us have been conditioned through the lens of white supremacy. All of us. 80% of all the teachers are white. They're all trained in schools and trained in universities that have trained them and educated them through the lens of white supremacy. All the school books, the history textbooks, social studies, civics, economics, all through the lens of white supremacy. And so kids grow up not having a competent understanding of the history of hostility of white supremacy against non-whites in this country. Now, that being said, in the aftermath of George Floyd, you started to see a shift in sentiment in this country that we've never seen before. And what I mean by that is we've seen uprisings before, we've seen protests before, but we've never seen corporate America stand up and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And start to weigh in and start to invest and start to elevate and prioritize equity and inclusion as part of their lexicon, as part of their reports, as part of their research. We've never seen that before. So that's something that's new. And then the focus on educating our youth around what's happening, that became a prominent issue, because if you have never known this, what these issues are about, and you cannot deny what you see in front of your face, then someone's going to have to start to address these issues in K-12. And the K-12 landscape of teachers are ill-equipped to do that. So they're reaching out, they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they're trying to relay what they learn to the students. So that being said, it became known that there's already an existing body of work.
Yeah.
It's called critical race theory, and because of the demonization of critical race theory as a tactic to galvanize white-centric, white-focused Christian conservatives in support of maintaining the status quo in the schools, this became it became a national phenomenon, and it's done all through right-wing media, and it's all been done within the last year.
Yeah, it's been it's been rapidly run like wildfire, really. I mean, the way this anti-CRT movement is getting a lot of oxygen.
They have an army, a political army, ready, so that in 20 some odd states there are new bills have been introduced, and some of them already been passed into law, outlawing critical race theory. And none of those states and none of those politicians that have signed on to this effort to outlaw critical race theory have any clue what it is.
Yeah.
But they don't need to, because what they do know is that whatever it is, it's going to disrupt the current conditioning of the minds of white kids. And that is something that they cannot tolerate.
Right. We have a listener here or a viewer on WURD TV, like Raphael Suleiman, who's saying that critical race theory is a legal teaching model that was implemented in law schools. It may need to be modified for pedagogical purposes in secondary elementary schools in America so that there is no friction among children of different races in the classroom. Law school students are at a much different level of emotional maturity when they are presented with these ideas in the classroom, says Rob. Thank you for that point, Raphael Suleiman. So I don't know if you want to respond to that, Mike, but also how do we counter this anti-CRT movement?
So here's the thing. To Mr. Suleiman's point, that's where it started, but it's evolved over the past decades.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, here's what we're talking about. The core ideology of critical race theory is this, that racism is ingrained in the systems and policies and private sector practices that are ubiquitous across the country. It is not an aberration when you see racism. That is the normal effect of the current systems.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. And so there's this intersectionality with everything in our society. Race intersects with everything in our society. I gave a couple of examples when I talked about urban planning and economic development, community development, even in marriage, the legality of marriage. But to his point, because it's ingrained in law, that's where the theories first gained prominence. That's because that's the research. The research came out of that. But here's the other piece. If you look at there's a book out, and let me see what it's called. It's called The Handbook of Critical Race Theory in Education, and this is throughout education. And there are multiple chapters in this book. But one of the chapters in this book goes back to W.B. Du Bois. W.B. Du Bois wrote this book. He wrote this book. This book is not taught in any schools. Can you see that? It's called Black Reconstruction in America.
Not taught, right.
1860 to 1880. This is a absolute necessity.
That's a classic and a necessity. You're absolutely right.
And it basically spells out to you how white supremacists ingrained in the schools and throughout all the systems in our society and the laws and the policies and practices, their ideology, white supremacist ideology, which is rooted in racial hierarchy, the valuing and devaluing of humans by race, which ultimately affects the outcomes of racism. So now that being said, we're talking about systemic racism ingrained in society, should be studied if we plan to change it. We can't change what we don't know, and we can't teach what we don't know. And the other side would prefer that their kids don't know, and therefore their kids cannot join with us to change the status quo. Because you cannot change what you don't know, and you can't teach what you don't know. And this book, not only was this book a necessity in the classrooms, but W.B. Du Bois was around for 60 years as the quintessential voice of Black America. Period. Cut and dried. No more discussion.
Do you think, Mike? I mean, do we need to create sort of alternative institutions or enhance bolster alternative institutions, community-centered institutions that we have, some control over. Because, I mean, with all the pressure that are on public schools right now to remove these kinds of lessons, this kind of curriculum, or not to allow, because a lot of the curriculum wasn't there to begin with, or not to allow this type of teaching or curriculum in the classroom, I feel like now there may come a time where we're at a point where we're going to have to encourage creating alternative methods or alternative strategies of teaching these kinds of lessons.
Well, you make a good point, but I'm going to disagree with that for a second here.
Okay.
Because this guy right here, this guy is Eric Foner.
Yeah, I have that book. Yeah.
Eric Foner is right now living and one of the premier award-winning historians on record.
Yeah,
period.
He is.
Right.
He is.
When he wrote this book, you know who he gave homage to? You know who he paid his respects to?
Yeah.
W.B. Du Bois.
Du Bois, yep.
And the Black Reconstruction in America book that W.B. Du Bois set in as
he knew Du Bois's
framework.
book, it was a precursor to his. Yep.
So we're not just talking about Black ideology or Black perspectives. We're talking about truth. This is
right.
this is the basic premise. Are we going to teach the kids truth, or are we going to continue to teach them propaganda and continue to condition their minds so that when they grow up, they have no understanding of the society that they've inherited and therefore have no ability to change that society? Now, if you say, should we go outside of this debate because it's been hijacked by these people who are assaulting truth?
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Schools.
Okay.
We already control a number of our schools. We control HBCUs. We control churches. There are areas of infrastructure and education and influence that we control. We control Black media. So we can certainly teach without being affected by these, whatever they want to outlaw. But the problem is that we cannot change this society by ourselves. White people have to have an understanding of what they've inherited and make a decision as to whether or not they want to change the status quo or maintain it.
Hey, Mike, real quick question, too. I got you for maybe like another minute, but I am real curious about this question. When you mentioned HBCUs and how HBCUs could be at the center of that movement to, to adequately, properly, or effectively teach critical race theory. But a lot of HBCUs are state-run, right? They're state-funded, state-controlled. Does that become like, I'm wondering when that starts to become problematic for HBCUs. HBCUs naturally should be epicenters for this type of curriculum and education. But I worry about those state-funded, state-run HBCUs, right, that are controlled by the state in places like Virginia, South Carolina, a lot of the southern states. When does that start becoming a problem?
It doesn't become a problem.
Okay.
No, here's the thing. The critical race theory is a moniker. So I'm not teaching critical race theory. I'm teaching history.
Right.
I'm using this textbook. I'm not teaching critical race theory. I'm teaching truth. I'm using this resource. We don't have to buy into these disingenuous arguments that have been politicized for political purposes. We simply need to teach the truth, and we need to ensure that the truth is being taught throughout K-12 in all schools to all kids, period, cut dry, and use the right resources to teach truth. So forget the CRT moniker, because if you get into that back and forth, then you're going to have a superficial argument with superficial people that don't know what they're talking about. And that's a waste of time.
We were talking with Mike Green, cultural economist, also the founder of the National Institute for Inclusive Competitiveness. Go to niicusa.org for more information there. He's at Mike Green 2 on social media, on Twitter. Always good to talk with him. Always walking away with some new thoughts after talking to Mike Green, but we got to unfortunately let him go. Mike, is always a pleasure. Be safe out there. Hope the air gets cleaner out there in Oregon. And things cool down, but good to talk with you, brother.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Charles.
All right, take care. Let's take a break. We come back, more Reality Check after these quick words.
What's up, Philly? It's Solomon. With so much uncertainty surrounding the upcoming school year, now is the time to take charge of your child's education and give them the tools to make learning fun and safe. Check out Commonwealth Charter Academy, which can make a difference in your child's life. Commonwealth Charter Academy, or CCA, is a K-12 public cyber charter school with nearly 20 years of experience providing a flexible, stable, online education in the comfort of your home. Enroll today at ccaeducate.me. Your child will receive 1. A world-class accredited education streamed directly into your home at no cost to you. 2. A laptop, headphones, assistance with accessing the internet, and learning materials all provided at no cost to you. 3. A safe learning environment with no bullying or security concerns. Join the nearly 2,500 students from Philly who already attend CCA. The school year begins September 8th. Enroll now at ccaeducate.me.
A Night of Passion makes a married doctor question his assumptions about love, lust, and monogamy. In The Marriage Pass, a tale of domestic suspense from Brianna Cole, smart, sexy, and filled with drama. The Marriage Pass explores the boundaries of a relationship by taking the what if of a free pass. One partner's consequence-free night with their greatest temptation to a new level. Pick up your copy of The Marriage Pass by Brianna Cole today, everywhere where books are sold. And for more information, visit BriannaCole.com. That's BriannaCole.com.
Did you hear the word around the community? HPP and HPF's very own Stacey Scott will be reporting live from WURD, 96.1 FM and 900 AM, each and every fourth Sunday of the month from 5 p.m. until 6 p.m. Be sure to spread the word and tune in. Want to call in and be a part of the community party? Email Stacey Scott at scott@hpplans.com. Again, that is scott@hpplans.com.
You know that feeling? Like every door is closing and you just can't see a way out? Being unemployed, underemployed, or just out of school can feel like that. But when you find the right tools, suddenly everything just clicks. FindSomethingNew.org offers resources that help develop new skills. Skills that can position you for careers in today's growing industries, from healthcare and manufacturing to cybersecurity and alternative energy. Find your path to a new career at FindSomethingNew.org. A message from the Ad Council.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, welcome back to Reality Check. We're headed into a strategist segment. We've got one of our strategists back who's on regular rotation here on Reality Check. WURD. He's been so for a long time. Even before I was on WURD, had him on a couple of other programs. Justin Wallen, strategist, pollster, business research, business strategist, expert based out in Southern California, which is where I was born, as a matter of fact. So as I always say, SoCal born and Philly raised. But you can go to jwallen.com for more information on him. And where are you on Twitter again, Justin? I always seem to forget your Twitter handle.
No problem. It's at jwallen1.
At jwallen1, that's right. That's correct. I do follow you, but I just, for some reason, I ran a blank on the handle at jwallen1, where he's highly engaged there. Good to have you back, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, I did want to, excuse me, just clear my throat here a little bit. I did want to ask you about climate crisis and the way that Republican and independent voters are responding to climate crisis. Like, you're in a state like California, and dealing with all sorts of climate crisis challenges, and also trying to figure out ways to protect and enhance, strengthen your energy grid. That clean energy conversation is real, very prominent there in California. So, but let's look at Republican and independent voters on issues like climate crisis and the environment and clean energy. What does the polling tell you right now where they stand on those issues as things intensify with the climate?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, Republicans, in terms of accepting that there's a problem with the climate, accepting that there's a need to clean the environment, they're not so far off from Democratic voters. So it's not as if they're all saying nothing is going on and we shouldn't take a look at it. There's debate and discourse on origins, but ultimately, Where the real rubber meets the road is when we start talking about solutions and how do we address this so that we have a better life, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. And largely when you see polling, you're going to see Republicans and Democratic and independent voters lining up on this is important stuff, that we diverge, all the three different groups kind of diverge into two camps when you start talking about how do you want to address it. And independents will fall on this issue largely into very similar camps as Republicans and Democratic voters. There's going to be Democratic-leaning independents. They're going to form the bulk of independents in California, and Republican-leaning independents, and they're going to slide towards that Republican perspective. And the Republican perspective will largely be, well, we want to get there, but we want to be careful of the expense at which we get there. And they will point towards grid failures and delivery failures and capacity failures in California as good reason to pursue dual track processes, for example. So the best way to think about this is, in business, let's say that you're a large corporation and you're moving to a new customer relationship software or something like that. More often than not, there's a recommendation to go dual track as you transition so you don't have a catastrophic failure, which couldn't be foreseen in the transition, right? That's an often recommended thing. Not all the time, but often. Republicans will tend to line up more with this. And what they'll say is one of the challenges that we have in California is because we move so quickly towards green energy, we lack the backup and the capacity to make up for peak power demands when we most need it. Frankly, we need it most when things are bad. And they have a point. It doesn't make sense in first world America and first world California to say you need to turn your power off when the temperature hits 110 degrees. That doesn't work. That creates more than just discomfort. It creates disruption to the economy. It puts our elderly at risk. It puts those with health problems at risk. And frankly, it's just not something that we should have to put up with in first world the United States. It's not what we work for. So they have a point. On the other hand, Democratic voters tend to be more urgent in their perspective and feel that it's such a clear and present danger that we should be willing to accommodate those what they view as short-term inconveniences. So that's really the divide. Do we move there immediately and suffer the short-term inconveniences, as one party views it, or do we move there quickly but also have backup so that we don't suffer things that could have lasting effects on our economy and health?
So in a kind of banal way, it's like a much more cautious approach versus a much more like urgent approach.
Exactly.
I guess, between when you kind of compare the Republican and Democratic view or perspective on this, so Republicans don't perceive like what's happening as they're seeing all these changes happening around us, wildfires and severe hurricane seasons, all sorts of climatic weather, tornadoes hitting especially red states harder. They don't see that right now what we're faced with is something that's extremely flooding. These are extremely existential threats that are happening, and they're accelerating. They're growing more in frequency. And so, we got to kind of move a little bit more quickly than that cautious approach. I mean, do they see these things happening? Are they seeing it as, okay, hey, this is something that is a real big threat. It's not just a nuisance anymore. And so we've got to act on it much more quickly than we're acting on it right now. I kind of see where you're coming from on that cautious approach when you frame it in terms of, okay, well, what's the backup as we're instituting and creating these new clean energy systems? Obviously, we're going to need some kind of backup as we scale up on these systems. I think I could see kind of the logic in that, but I mean, do they see how existential things are right now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to use the classic Titanic perspective, Republicans see the iceberg. And the difference is they see there's an iceberg there.
Okay.
They want to move away from the iceberg. They recognize not moving away from the iceberg in a timely fashion will sink the ship. Democratic voters feel that the iceberg has already been struck and the ship is foundering.
Okay.
So it's really just a question of how close that is. And
okay. That's an interesting visual. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's because it's science, and because science has is embedded in both theory and fact, there's a lot of rational discussion that goes around there. And if I were messaging to Republicans, and I do a lot of work in environmental related issues in California, of course, on private clients and government clients and so forth. So I recognize both sides. And typically Republicans are going to be more responsive to language that is less breathless and more pragmatic. This is a problem. We need to get from A to B. We need to make these investments. This is what's going to cost you. And this is the return on that investment and why it's going to be valuable to you and your children. That they'll get. It takes an investment in education. You can't just say the ship is sinking and float, throw your arms around and expect them to catch that fire, that enthusiasm, that fear. They just won't. But you can convince them, and you can get them to be much more in line.
Can we really convince them, though? Because what makes this all problematic, okay, so this all sounds, very encouraging, kind of in theory, though, Justin, because it's like you have so many Republican voters now. I mean, this is like the rank and file that seems so anti-science. There's still a lot of climate denying or climate crisis denying that's going on there. So on one hand, yeah, they see the iceberg coming, but do they even believe in the science behind the iceberg? I mean, we're just seeing such like high levels of science illiteracy when we talk about the Republican Party with respect to some of these issues. How do we reconcile that?
So there's a proportion of Republicans who do not believe that climate change is created by man. And again, this is science. I mean, science is
but it's a pretty dominant proportion, though. That's the problem, right?
It's in terms of communication, it almost doesn't matter. So when we're talking, if you look at the networks, if you look at Fox or CNN, are they news organizations or are they entertainment organizations, right? So
that's a good question. I ask myself that all the time.
Right. So, and there's validity to both. I'm not knocking either, or entertainment versus news. It just, when we talk about communicating to Republicans, I would recommend taking a more pragmatic view that almost it doesn't matter that they disagree on the origins of climate change. What's more important is, are we going to safeguard our Earth and our environment, not just for us, but for future generations? And they see that. They lived through, a lot of these Republicans lived through the 70s, were virulently against catalytic converters in California. And this has taken away power from my wonderful muscle car. How dare they? This is horrible. It's ridiculous. Turns out we saw the change in LA. It's dramatically different. LA was a miserable pea soup, horrible place. You remember LA.
Oh, yeah, it was.
It was not. And now they see there's a difference. So Republicans say, yeah, okay, I get it. There's something to be done that one way or another is going to make our life better. And by the way, if the environment's better, our economy is going to be better, our property values are going to be better. These things are important to us. If it's just a question of how we speak to people, and it's more a question of what result do you want? What action do you want taken, as opposed to you absolutely necessarily expect or need people to line up with a particular belief set that's the origin of this. And I don't think you do. I think you can reach the same goals, and as with everything's a compromise. No one gets exactly what they want, but I think we can reach the same goals much faster if we speak to Republicans in language that focuses on end game, as opposed to, you don't believe the science and you're an idiot for it, because no one's going to respond to that.
One thing I noticed too in the clean energy climate crisis response conversation, like especially coming out of the Biden administration, I noticed it with Biden's first address before Congress back in February. And I'm sure you noticed this, Justin. He framed it more in terms of a jobs and market issue, right? Like, okay, like it's like he was just being pragmatic about it. He was just like, okay, you know what? People don't want to hear the fact that these are like life-threatening, planet-threatening issues, but they would just want to know, are they going to have jobs or not, while we try to make these transitions, while in responding to climate crisis and also in transitioning to clean energy. If the language is such that we're focused more on like how Biden seems to be doing it, like and there seem to be a lot of environmental advocates who understand that approach and have pretty much blessed it. If more of the conversation is focused on, okay, well, these are the percentage of jobs that this approach can accrue. This is the amount of money that we can make This is the amount of economy that we can produce going this route, because I think it's a real simple proposition. It's kind of, it's very clear-cut, binary. Old school fossil fuel economy is losing jobs. I mean, coal, oil and gas, all this stuff's losing jobs. That kind of market is cratering. That's old school fossil fuel economy. But new clean energy economy, this is actually going to create more jobs and get you more money. I mean, could that be resonant with that portion of the electorate?
Yeah, that absolutely, and that's the right approach. I mean, it's a question. That's exactly the right approach. This is what's you're gonna get out of it, and you're going to, especially if you avoid the deep sacrifices. One of the big things that you always want to avoid when communicating to later adopters, just like you do in business, is avoid the fear that in the solution we are going to kill the patient. Don't kill the patient. Don't turn off the power for large periods of time. Don't let large portions of land just burn if we don't have the resources to get to it. And Republicans will want to see exactly the sort of thing that you just said. They're going to want to see meaningful numbers that make them think there's something valuable there. And all consumers of marketing information and political information now, well, not all, but much more than in the past, are much more sophisticated than they were. So just saying this is going to create jobs won't work. You have to say it creates jobs. By the way, we have a case study here. This happened here, and it worked, and this was going to work for all others. You're going to see more and more Republicans, for example, buying electric cars. Why? Because it's not a virtue signal anymore. And you buy an electric car, and you can beat the heck out of that brand new Porsche with a petrol engine right next to you. That's fun. That's exciting. Oh, and by the way, you're saving the planet. That's a good thing. I can get on board with that too. There has to be, you have to kind of think of all these things that are going to make a late adopter buy in after the early adopters have already done so. They're the true believers. We don't have to convince them. We have to convince the later adopters, and it's a different message. It's not just we're saving the planet and there's a crisis and we're terrified and it's an emergency. It's much different, but you can still get those people to buy, and that's where we need to be.
Wow, Justin, yeah, you give me some food for thought there. That's interesting. So, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you having that conversation. We'll talk more about it. Unfortunately, I got to let you go. Justin Wallen, longtime strategist, business strategist, polling expert. That's why we bring him on for our weekly strategist segment. He rotates with us. Good to see him. Good to have him back. Jay Wallen, for more information on him, jwallen.com. That's JWALLIN.com to get more insights from there. And he joins us here on Reality Check regularly at jwallen1, by the way, on Twitter if you'd like to engage him on social media. Justin, good to see you. Thanks again.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more open phone lines at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Join Nick Taliaferro Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. for a very special simulcast conversation on WURD and WVON Radio in Chicago. Hosted by WURD's own Nick Taliaferro and WVON's Matt McGill and Kimberly E. Goen on the impact of violence in Philadelphia and Chicago. That's Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. exclusively on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com. Simulcast on WVON. Two of the only black-owned talk radio stations in the nation join forces for a powerful and timely conversation.
Between family dinners, bedtime stories, and study sessions, Pico knows that life never stops moving. So if your energy bills are adding up, Pico has programs available, like new payment options, flexible billing, and financial assistance to help you manage your bills and your budget for the essential energy you and your family need. Learn how Pico can help keep your life moving with payment arrangements. See if you qualify at pico.com/help.
For the past 10 years, Comcast has been helping students get ready. We've connected 5 million students from low-income families to low-cost, high-speed internet. We're working with both nonprofit partners and city leaders to create over 1,000 Wi-Fi connected lift zones in community centers nationwide. And now we're committing $1 billion to reach 50 million people with the connectivity, skills, training, and the resources they need to succeed in a digital world. Learn more at comcast.com/education.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
The WURD Radio Newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting WURDradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio Newsletter. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, welcome back to Reality Check. Don't forget about the WURD Works Jobs Portal, the livelihood jobs portal that WURD is delivering to you. It's highly accessible. Many Philadelphia employers are there looking for some great new talent. So go to WURDworks.com, click on jobs. It's our livelihood jobs search portal that we've built for you. We here at WURD have built for you, and just trying to make the job market much more accessible, particularly in uncertain times like these, make that much more accessible to you. So go to wordworks.com/jobs. We're expanding that. Please let us know how that's going for you. If you have used WordWorks, you've applied for a job or even secured a job through WordWorks, through the livelihood portal. That was your first start. Tell us how that went for you, and what worked for you, what we need to improve. So we really want that to make a very special and permanent element of the WURD universe. So please continue to go to wordworks.com. That's the livelihood job search channel, wordworks.com, and click on jobs. All right, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. We got open phone lines at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's see some of these comments. Y'all like comments on Facebook Live today, and some thoughtful ones too. So I want to go into that. People are, just want folks who are watching us through WURD TV on Facebook Live to know that, like, I'm watching them, I am reading, multitasking here, and as I'm asking guests questions and talking with folks, our community, our residential subject matter experts, fielding those calls and listening to what they have to say. I'm also listening to what you have to say as well, and it does a lot of what you're saying here resonates with me. Valerie Susan Wells McCloy. Charles, I agree with you. Okay, the pandemic happened. Let's move on. Most offices, I think she's talking about public offices or like city elected offices, open and or created protection barriers, created flexible office workers time to service the constituents. So now it's time to service the constituents. I'm sorry, Valerie, some of this is a little bit fragmented, so I'm just going to try my best on it. No, we are in a city of crisis. You have been home, vacationed enough. People want to be able to walk in city offices and personally handle their business. There are so many issues that are left on the table that need solutions. Don't you live here? Doesn't it bother you? So yes, if you live here, it should bother you. So that lack of service and just making more demands on service, and as I was saying before, lack of confidence in city leadership and in city services is also a crisis in and of itself. Halima Muhammad, there's no amount of, this is what Halima Muhammad is saying, there's no amount of extra money for keeping recreational centers open later is going to solve, there's no amount of extra money for keeping recreational center open later that's going to solve this gun crisis. This turning guns for gift cards is bull. So, but I think at the same time, too, something that Council Majority Leader Sherelle Parker had said, we have to exhaust every option. So you have to exhaust every avenue. I don't think that that's enough reason to cancel, the gun buyback program. I think that's something you should go with. But I definitely do agree that it's much smaller. It's a much smaller initiative or a much smaller impact initiative than how elected officials or city officials are framing it. City officials are framing it, they're putting too much glow around it. It doesn't deserve that much glow. But it's not something you should cancel. It nibbles around the edges here and there, and beggars can't be choosers right now in a crisis like this, in a situation like this. But anyway, Halima Muhammad goes on to say the young men doing these shootings are not turning in guns for gift cards. You're correct about that. So if we don't go back to what we did before, how do we get the guns already on the streets? We don't need more meetings and meetings that produce nothing. The young men involved in these shootings are not hanging in the churches or masjids. You have young men carry guns for defensive purposes only because just being out and about they can be shot at. If they're caught, they are treated like the criminal shooting at them. Black men are damned if they do or damned if they don't. We are way past trying to deal with the symptoms. We need to cure the disease now. It also adds that the world is in violence in TV, music, social media. Raphael Suleiman talks about, you're right about that, Mr. Ellison, the level of leadership competence is low. And confidence, not just competence, but the confidence from residents and constituents is low, and city leaders really need to be concerned about that. Many of the black city council members, this is Raphael's continuing saying, many of the black city council members could not make it in a corporate job in the private sector. Their demeanor and personal styles would make their tenure very problematic. The only competent city officials that I notice now are Rebecca Reinhardt, David O., Helen Gim, and the real estate developer and city council, Alan Dom, who is there by choice. Halima Muhammad's adding some, I want to talk about more solutions. Halima Muhammad is saying they need to set up mobile cop units in these hot spots in these neighborhoods. Get the police back to walking the beat. Yeah, it would be nice. Get them off their butts. This is what Halima Muhammad is saying. When the public calls the police, when these young people are beefing, they need to respond. The police need to be proactive along with reactive. Yeah, police need to be active and respond. When we see young people beefing, we also need to, as a community, act and respond. I would also add that this needs to happen inside schools with everyone going back to school now, and so it's such in a rush to go back to school. Let's change the way that classrooms are functioning, and that teachers are also responding to those kinds of traumas and stressors. You hear this ad that pops up every now and then talking about virtual school environments or some kind of virtual charter school. Is that what it is? I forget what it is, but they talk about bullying. That's a big problem. Bullying and lack of conflict resolution inside school settings, and a lot of teachers don't do it. Teachers turn a blind eye to it. A lot of educators and teachers have been doing that for a long time. So we do need a situation here where school systems need to be a lot more aggressive on that too. We as a community need to be a lot more aggressive on that too, and institute new standards, and really teaching our young people how to be better at resolving conflicts. We need to talk to ourselves about how we better resolve conflicts. We're not doing that. But no, thank you, Halima. Raphael goes back to saying we need community policing models in these distressed Philly neighborhoods. Do you agree? You agree? So this is what Charles Ramsey was trying to push when he was commissioner of police. Would like to get some more viewer listener input on that if we need to go back to community policing models. Law Santana says eliminate person-to-person private gun sales. Serial numbers from legal guns should be registered with the state in which a person lives, just like vehicle registration. All right, Law Santana. Casa Husera Charles, racism is just a word that takes people to make it exist, and we, the dark-skinned people made by God, know right from wrong and know better. That's why they're trying to make their authority the new absolute truth, and we know better. So Luis Wright is replying to Valerie Susan, and I'm not sure, where she's saying, apparently not. While they city council come off their nice long vacation, there'll be so many more Philadelphians killed, maimed, or shot, and it'll be business as usual with no real solutions when they convene. 215-634-8065 phone lines are open at 215-634-8065. 866-361-0900. Some interesting comments there, too. And I like to always take that opportunity to read them out loud because, you've got some really intelligent folks, who are watching and listening to us. And so, I consider like a lot of subject matter expertise through our listeners, through our viewers as well. So I'm glad I found some time to go ahead and share some of that with the larger viewing and listening audience. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. One thing I didn't mention, and, I think we should pay a little bit of attention to, I understand that billionaires going into space at this point they are incredibly tone deaf because you would love to see those resources put into helping with a lot of structural corrections and, also helping with save the planet before they kind of rush to escape the planet, while it's going through its changes right now, going through its crisis. But, we should pay very close attention to that. So we did have just happening now. This is big news, and this is what they're kind of consumed with at the moment, mainstream media. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, billionaire extraordinaire, is basically the richest dude on earth, or among the richest people on earth, but he and a crew of an additional 3 flew up into space, did this, what's called a suborbital flight. Went up into space, traversed some of the Earth's orbit, and then came back down to Earth. So that just happened. We had the oldest person ever to go on a space journey go up there just not too long ago. That happened this morning, and the youngest person on record to ever go there. So we need to pay very close attention to this on a number of levels. One is pay attention to it, and we need to kind of watch that closely, side-eyed a little bit, but watch it and assess it closely to see why there is like a big space rush happening. Look at that industry too. That's a big burgeoning industry. And so instead of being so quick to dismiss it, which is what a lot of our people are doing, it's the same thing with the environmental discussion. Remember, we used to have that several years ago, and some of you used to be like, man, I don't want to talk about no trees. That's a white people's discussion. And so I'm seeing a lot of that now where it's like space, that's a white people's discussion. It's very flat Earth. It's very, the Earth is not round. The tone and how people respond to. I see it on social media, and I hear it sometimes, like on Black radio, for example, or Black media is not touching it. Black media really needs to get involved in this situation, particularly in terms of like this big, burgeoning, expanding, multi-billion-dollar industry, which is space. There's a lot of money flowing through it. We should be kind of preparing a lot of our young people to enter it, to be competitive in it, because that's the next stage of things. As we get deeper into the 21st century. Like, we're not going to be just confined to this planet forever. And, we have like a solar system. We have other planets in it, and they've already made plans and projections. They've already landed things on other planets in the solar system. And that activity is going to get, is going to accelerate and is going to become much more frequent as we get further into the century. So, we need to, especially like we're having this big conversation about HBCUs right now. And I'm really waiting for us to start seeing HBCUs as much more than the conversation we're having now. I really hope that, especially with, for example, the recent hiring of Nicole Hannah-Jones, who created the 1619 Project, and Ta-Nehisi Coates, who was the Atlantic writer who kind of made his big entrance onto the public, the mainstream scene with a discussion on reparations and that iconic piece in the Atlantic magazine. But with Howard University hiring Hannah-Jones and Coates, particularly with Hannah-Jones, dissing University of North Carolina, a predominantly white institution, in favor of an HBCU. So I'm hoping that that high-profile hiring starts to dramatically alter the kinds of conversations we have about HBCUs, because the kinds of conversations as a community that we normally have about HBCUs is about the marching bands and the homecomings and the social clubs and the step shows. And I'm saying this as someone who did not go to a HBCU, but who, especially in recent years, has recognized their real value. that conversation is very tiring and exhausting. And, you know, on some levels, it can be very trifling because there's a lot more that HBCUs have to offer. There are so many HBCUs that are centers of, you know, for example, science, engineering, and agriculture science curriculum and training. And so, you know, where's the conversation, for example? So Jeff Bezos just went up into space while at the same time his ex-wife, who's got like half his money, is giving money away, billions of dollars away to all kinds of HBCUs. But there's not a conversation about, okay, well, how can we retool HBCUs to meet the demands of this, you know, this new and on some levels uncertain but exciting century? You know, how do we prepare, how do we retool or reconfigure HBCUs, or how do we leverage HBCUs to prepare our young Black people to get careers and jobs and leadership in the space industry and into space? So when they start building things on places like the moon and Mars, and suddenly like a big piece of our economy is based on space travel, and also the types of things like energy, for example, like energy from the sun, that we're going to be constructing these types of vehicles and these types of technologies in space. We're not stuck here on planet Earth. Like our people aren't stuck here on planet Earth, and we're not a part of that new wave. That's the discussion we should be having, you know, and treating HBCUs as centers of intellectual and competitive growth. Not like, you know, getting, you know, gawking out every time, you know, like just having a conversation, you know, or every time, like, you know, Netflix presents a documentary about or a series about HBCUs, just about the marching bands. HBCUs are much more than that. Historically Black colleges and universities, much, much, much more than that. And they can be even much more than what they are now. That's the kind of conversation we should be having around, as, you know, instead of ridiculing and slamming billionaires for going up to space, let's have a smart discussion about why they're going up to space, and what piece of this new industry can we get, right? And so, and also when we start traveling into space and start colonizing space, because it's going to come a lot sooner than you think. For some of us, it could come, or for our children, it could come in our lifetimes. So, like, what are societies going to look like? What are human societies going to look like in space? How will things like bias, and I actually asked this question, I remember, was that I think when I first started this program, or right before I started this program here on WURD, and the Center for American Progress invited me to a panel discussion about space. And there was a general there who was, you know, kind of getting the new space command started, and there was some other experts, and they were talking about, okay, what's space going to look like? And you know, it was kind of the elephant in the room, and I asked it, I'm like, okay, so what's racism in space going to look like? And are we as societies prepared to you know, tackle it, to attack it, to prevent it once we get into these other places, these other spaces? Like, so for example, if we colonize Mars, are we going to be dealing with the type of racism that's not addressed and not eliminated, you know, and because we're like millions of light years from Earth? Those are real conversations we need to have. So, you know, we got to start having those conversations now and not be so dismissive and think that, oh, this is a silly conversation. I wasn't watching the clock. I went late. I'm sorry, Troy. Now I'm looking at the clock, and I need to take a break. So we'll be right back.
Hello, Philadelphia. Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch, and you can contact your local agent for personalized assistance.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. and you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. With so much uncertainty surrounding the upcoming school year, now is the time to take charge of your child's education and give them the tools to make learning fun and safe. Check out Commonwealth Charter Academy, which can make a difference in your child's life. Commonwealth Charter Academy, or CCA, is a K-12 public cyber charter school with nearly 20 years of experience providing a flexible, stable, online education in the comfort of your home. Enroll today at ccaeducate.me. Your child will receive 1, a world-class accredited education streamed directly into your home at no cost to you. 2, a laptop, headphones, assistance with accessing the internet, and learning materials, all provided at no cost to you. 3, a safe learning environment with no bullying or security concerns. Join the nearly 2,500 students from Philly who already attend CCA. The school year begins September 8th. Enroll now at ccaeducate.me.
Star Fusion Express is Philly's first choice when cravings for big, juicy burgers, crispy chicken sandwiches, delicious wings, crisp salads, creamy mac and cheese, innovative spring rolls, and delectable fresh seafood kicks in. Did you hear that? Star Fusion Express at 5178 Parkside Avenue in West Philly is your go-to for fresh, flavorful, homemade deliciousness 7 days a week. Learn more and check out the menu at starfusionrestaurant.com. That's starfusionrestaurant.com for the best burgers, chicken sandwiches, wings, salads, spring rolls, and fresh seafood creations in Philly's Parkside neighborhood. Holla!
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
Pandemic COVID-19. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a serious time. You know, we are at a strange time in our lives when we have to make decisions, really important decisions about our lives and the lives of our family and our friends and neighbors and strangers. And you know, making decisions like that is no play. So I'm going to say this little rap for you. We call it a poem or a rap. I hope that when I'm finished saying it, you'll be able to say it also. Pandemic time, the vaccine is free. Get your vaccination as quick as can be. The Delta variant may be a new concern. Be willing to take time. Be willing to learn. And I'm going to tell you something. We all better be willing to learn, and we all better be willing and ready to take that vaccine. This is no playtime. And I would say from the bottom of my heart, amen, amen, and amen.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk media. This is WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black. Talk media. Reality check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, we head into our voting rights threat assessment. We do this weekly. We do this frequently here on Reality Check WURD. It's exclusive on Reality Check WURD. And we do it in conjunction with our partners at All Voting is Local. Go to allvotingislocal.org to find out what's happening on the front lines of this struggle to preserve voting rights, to keep voting rights alive, and to counter this these significant attacks against voting rights. There's a lot of voter destruction going on in multiple states. We've been partnering with All Voting is Local since last year. In fact, throughout the 2020 elections, just being a part of that fight and providing you with key information from multiple states, including Pennsylvania. Now we go to Wisconsin. Shantae Nelson is joining. She's back. All Voting is Local's Wisconsin State Director. It's good to see her, as always, joining us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Shantae, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I am lovely. How are you today?
All right. Hanging in there. Definitely. So you all put out a new report, Ballots for All, ensuring eligible Wisconsinites in jail have equal access to voting. And you did this report last year, so this is an update to the July 2020 report, Ballots for All, ensuring eligible Wisconsin voters in jail have equal access to voting. So what are some new differences that you're finding between 2020 and 2021 in terms of the incarcerated being able to access the right to vote in a place in a battleground state like Wisconsin?
Yeah, so basically using data from records requests, public records requests that we submitted to all of our county jails, all 72 county jails, because county sheriffs oversee the county jails, it was our intention to compare 2020 policies to 2021 policies and determine whether or not there had been any improvements. And one of the things that we saw was of the 72 counties, we had 55 counties that responded to our request, and then we were able to look at those responses to see of the 55 whom responded, which of them actually either improved or implemented a policy regarding voting from jail.
Okay, got it, got it. So, that's the what is the level of access to voting right now for Wisconsin, with incarcerated Wisconsinites? Like, so because we still have this impression that, generally speaking, right, most people just feel like folks who are in jail are not voting, don't have a right to vote. But that's not necessarily the case, in that it does vary from state to state. So just, just sort of simply, like, what is it currently? What's the voting franchise like for incarcerated citizens inside Wisconsin?
Yes, in Wisconsin particularly, people who are involved in the criminal legal system do not become ineligible to vote unless they have been convicted and sentenced, I should say, of a felony or to a felony. There are certain circumstances I want to share really quickly where an exception of treason or bribery, they may have been convicted of a misdemeanor for treason, bribery, and that would be included in the restriction.
Got it. Got it. Is Wisconsin, is that kind of the standard? I mean, is it different from other states? I mean, is there anything that makes Wisconsin special about the way they provide those voting rights, or, in some cases restrict those voting rights for the incarcerated?
I think it's, pretty standard, if you will. Of course, voting rights, I want to be very specific. Voting rights from jail are different than voting rights from prison. In Wisconsin, individuals are unable to vote if they have been convicted of a felony or they are serving prison time, and they're not able to vote until they have completed their sentence, whether it is parole, probation, things of that nature. It would be nice in Wisconsin if those voting rights were restored upon release, and even better if those voting rights did not were not pulled away from individuals as they serve their time.
Got it. That's the ideal situation for you in your mind when you think of the ideal maximum voting rights for the incarcerated in Wisconsin. That's what you visualize in your mind, among other things.
Correct. We really do feel like that in order for democracy to work for any of us and all of us, it must include any and all of us. And when we position ourselves where we are not allowing all of those whom are currently eligible to vote under the law to be able to participate in that process, we are not able to get to or obtain the fullness of democracy.
I noticed you got a higher response rate in 2021 than you got in 2020, because you got, like, well, I don't know, kind of, you had 61 counties respond in 2020, but you had 55 respond in 2021, but you had more of the 55 respond in 2021 than you did of the 61 in 2020. So, like, kind of explain that a little bit, like why you had fewer counties responding, even though you had higher response rates from those counties that did respond for this year. But why did you have a lower response rate, you think?
I don't think that county jails realized what we were going to do with this information. I would almost guarantee that once we send a records request to compare again in the next year, there will be higher responses. So it could just be that county jails were not aware that we were going to compare the information. We simply submitted the records request. What we do with that request, of course, is up to us as an organization. And we wanted to communicate to county jails that we are watching, we are paying attention as an organization to whether or not policies are implemented, whether or not they are improved. I mean, we look at some of the jails that are here, and I think we highlighted Green Lake County being one that had a very basic policy, right? And so we're looking for, are you improving your policies? Are you creating procedures? Because policies and procedures help us to be able to determine what is being followed within the jail, yes, but it also is important because once an individual maybe leaves that role within a jail, that policy, that procedure is still on the books, if you will, or in the history of the jail, and it can be implemented whether a person is still there or not.
Okay,
Meaning a jail administrator is still there or not.
Is that difficult, those records requests? Like, do they take a long time, or do you get like a lot of flack or static from incarceration agencies that you submit these requests to?
We didn't get a lot of flack or static. I will say more than 15 counties within Wisconsin never responded or had not responded to our records request by the time that we actually drafted this this report. And so we know that it is a law for counties to respond to records requests. We've submitted them before, and so we will be submitting them again to ensure that and hopefully some of these counties that did not respond will respond coming into our 2022 research.
Hey, another thing I'm curious about too, Shantae, if you can frame this in the context of, or how does this issue intersect with like the census and how the census captures the incarcerated in a state like Wisconsin?
Yeah, so in the state of Wisconsin, the term residence on the books is defined as a place that an individual intends to return to. No one intends to return to jail or prison.
Right.
And yet the census counts individuals based on where they are located during the census. To me, this is it's like a whole nother issue that we haven't even touched on, which is called prison gerrymandering. It is not necessarily something that we focused on as an organization, but it is something that needs to be talked about. And basically, prison gerrymandering is where an individual is counted within that jail or that prison, but when they're released back to their home. But the resources and the representation that is attached to that count is still for the actual district by which they were counted. When we talk about jail voting, that is something that all residents whom have not had their access or their ability to vote taken from them due to a felony, or like I stated, those couple of misdemeanors, should have access to cast a ballot. And it is the responsibility of jail administrators to ensure that eligible voters have access to obtain a ballot and they understand how to register and how to vote. One of the other things that I always say is that residents of local jails are still taxed. They're still used to allocate resources. Therefore, they should have the freedom to have their voices heard through the ballot. And the fact that it may be a little bit of extra work is never an excuse to silence them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm real curious too, Shantae, how those who are incarcerated, how they perceive or react to respond to this situation with respect to their voting rights. Do you have like voting rights mobilization movements or voting rights advocacy and activism that's happening inside the jails themselves? Like, is there a lot of advocacy and a lot of conversation amongst inmates who are in that situation, also helping inform you as you carry out these audits of voting rights inside the jails?
Yeah, so all voting is local. We have partners throughout the state, and some of those partners actually do go into our jails. One space that is that has had some advocacy, we highlighted it even within the report, is Eau Claire, where they created a very detailed procedure, and they're working with nonpartisan groups to come in and out of jails according to the law. Another place is Outagamie County, where jail administrators have provided voter information through their inmate kiosk. So there are some jails that we can that are highlighted within the report that are allowing for education and allowing for information to be obtained by those residents of jails. I think it's also very important that we are mindful that once a person is accosted, they maybe didn't plan to be accosted at that time. And so sometimes they have a photo ID on them, other times they do not, which one of the recommendations that we even release within the report is to expand photo ID because it is a requirement.
Shantae, can you hear us? I think we might have lost you. Shantae? Shantae might have froze up, so we'll see if we can get her back. We're talking. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
okay,
there I am.
you froze for
Sorry.
a moment. Okay,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know what happened.
Yeah, it froze up. It wasn't anything that we had any control over.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
what
I
were
was
you
just
saying about 30 seconds ago?
Yeah, so just making sure that we also have a process by which we can obtain or expand photo IDs here within the state of Wisconsin so that we can include identification from prison or from jail, I should say, identification from jail. We know that we need a ballot, an ID in order to request a ballot here in the state of Wisconsin. And as a result of that, I think being able to expand to include jail identification would be something that's useful as well in this process.
What's the current situation? Just give us a quick update as far as what's happening in Wisconsin around voter suppression, Shantae, like, the number of pieces of legislation that you're dealing with. I mean, last time we talked, of course, you have Governor Tony Evers. We assume he's pro-voting rights, and he's not going to sign off on this voter suppression legislation. So you've got that defense in place there. But, obviously the Wisconsin legislature dominated by folks who are against or anti-voting rights. But what's the current situation there in Wisconsin as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, we have lots of bills that are circulating the state capitol around voting access, or limiting, I should say, voting access. In addition to that, we have recently had lawsuits that attack drop boxes and the availability of drop boxes. We have things that are, requests to audit our elections. We have a number of things that are going on, and it is always our responsibility as those whom are a part of these nonpartisan organizations in this work, as well as those whom are jail administrators, those whom are the legislature, as well as election officials, to make sure that we create access for voting and not limit that access. It is never our job to find ways to limit access to casting a ballot.
Yeah. I mean, it's the definition of insanity, right? There's this big movement in this country. It's like this big movement to question or deny voting rights. We don't do that on a mass scale when we talk about gun rights. It's just so insane. we don't. You know what I mean? It's just like it's like, oh, well, that's Second Amendment. That's like, keep that there. Like, that, don't question that. But
voting is our Constitution. It's a part of our Constitution.
It's a part of our Constitution, right? I just don't understand it. Like, people just seem more eager to preserve gun rights than they do voting rights.
Yeah.
And it's insane. It really, literally is the definition of insanity. We've been talking with Shantae Nelson, who is All Voting is Local Wisconsin State Director. We're talking to her from the battleground state of Wisconsin, one of those states we're going to be watching closely. 2022. I know it's a big announcement. Some new folks entering the Senate race there in Wisconsin. So we're going to be watching that closely. I think it was Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, right? So I think he's the only black elected official or black politician who's currently state politician. Okay, there are other black candidates in the U.S. Senate race. I think it's just him right now, right?
No, it's just him.
Just him at the moment. So I'm going to be watching that race close. We always like to watch those races very closely. When someone of color or someone black announces that they're going to get into a big statewide gubernatorial or Senate race. So I'm sure we'll be every now and then checking in with you, Shantae Nelson. Go to allvotingislocal.org for more information, @votingislocal on social media. Thanks again, Shantae, for your time. Always appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care. Thank you. All right. Let's take a break. Phone lines are open. Yeah, phone lines are open. So we just want to roll it out with open phone lines until we get to the 1 o'clock hour and end this Tuesday edition of Reality Check. So you have the mic, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's get to it. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still still honoring that WURD 10% discount, give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Do you have what it tastes to solve Hers flavor mix mystery? One chip, 3 classic Hers flavors, thousands of possible combinations. Pick up a bag of Hers flavor mix mystery and make your guess online today. Your guess could win you $10,000 and a year's supply of Hers. Visit Hers on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more info on how to enter. Solve the mystery. Break out the Hers. No purchase necessary. Legal residents of the 50 United States, DC, 18 years of age and older. Ends 8/31/21. To enter and for official rules, including odds and prize descriptions, visit campaign.rtm.com/Hers flavor mix mystery / void where prohibited.
Teachers shape the future. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who'll make preventing pandemics their life's work. Sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who'll help combat climate change. And generating possibilities for a student who'll be the first in their family to graduate college. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Are you looking to hire diverse talent? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal to help connect you with diverse talent in Philadelphia and beyond. If you would like to have your jobs featured on our job portal, give us a call at 215-425-7875 or send us an email at sales@wordradio.com. Check out the job portal today on our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WordRadio.com.
Okay, welcome back to Reality Check Tuesday edition. Phone lines are open in case you didn't hear before our break. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour that is happening in the city of Philadelphia. And this year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, North Philly, West Philly, and South Philly. Tiffany Bacon will broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Our next stop is North Philly's Penrose Playground. That's 1101 West Susquehanna Avenue in Philly. Friday, July 23rd, enjoy a special feature on the Summer Olympics, meet special guests, and stand with WURD. Be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of the Black community. Show your support and join or renew your 4WURD membership on site. So join us again as we broadcast from the Recreation Center at Penrose Playground from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. WURD showing some love this summer. Highly advise and highly recommend people to mask up, especially when you join us and when you reach Sister and Tiffany Bacon at the Penrose Rec Center. Please have your mask on and just maintain some social distance where possible. So we just want to keep everyone safe out there, particularly for those who still insist on not getting vaccinated. And if you're finding time, if you're unvaccinated and you're finding time to join us on our summer a Freedom Tour, you have time to go to Penrose Play Rec Center. That means you had time to go get vaccinated. So I prefer you get vaccinated first before you go anywhere. So, but if there are folks that are showing up at WURD events to hang out with the host and, putting people at risk and you're not vaccinated, that means you had time. I don't want to hear that you didn't have time to go to the vaccination spot and get vaccinated. You apparently had time to go to one of these events. So you should have time to get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated. But if you're insisting on continue to not get vaccinated, please mask up and please socially distance. Please do everything that you can, that you should be doing to minimize that risk to yourself and also to our host and to our staff and to everyone else who's coming there to have a good time. So, this Delta variant is real. So just please, everyone, please be aware and be responsible while we're navigating out and about. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let me go to Mr. Rick out of Germany, who's calling in for a reality check. Mr. Rick, how are you doing, sir?
Can you hear me okay, Charles?
Yes, I can. How are you doing, sir?
Okay. first of all, to your conversation earlier about just put the doggone guns down. Young boys who may be struggling with their father or don't have a father look to older men and men in the streets as guidance. And older men take advantage of those young boys, not only supplying them with money, but also supplying them with guns.
Mm-hmm.
Second, you spoke about space flight and leaving this planet.
Yeah.
Well, I here in Germany have faced young white girls who say to me in very good English, there is no planet B at the moment. And I think that what the rich are doing, what the militaries of America and Russia and China are doing at the moment, are trying to find a way to survive the pole shift that's coming. And that will be a low Earth orbit proposition. They may go to Mars in your lifetime, but the majority of us on this planet ain't going to Mars. So we got this planet to live on. We got this planet to work out the problems that we face.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point that you make, Mr. Rick, too, about, orbital living. There's a film that came out, I think it was about 10 years ago, called Elysium. If you have an opportunity to see it, and I'm not just telling that to Mr. Rick, but everyone, if you haven't already seen it, Elysium, I think Matt Damon was in it. It was a science fiction film, and it was about that kind of scenario, the rich in very nice, clean environment, orbital living, just basically orbital colonies, whole orbital civilizations and communities around the planet, built around the planet. There's some other Korean movie that came out that was on Netflix. What was the name of that movie? That was actually pretty good. It's Korean, but it's on Netflix. It came out I think it was earlier this year or last year. But anyway, you should check out too. That kind of gets into that a little bit. And then the inequities that come out of that. Elysium is very, very deep, searing film about those inequities, the gulf, the chasm between rich and poor, and how that plays out as when you start having the wealthy, the super wealthy going to space. We do need to pay attention to it, though. And actually, there are opportunities to a lot of technology we have now is technology that was experimented with and built in space. A lot of that technology. So, I'm all for I think we're kind of stuck right now. We're not in a phase of innovation at the moment, or in a phase of ingenuity. We're in a phase of, just convenience. So we're regurgitating technologies just for convenience, like apps. Like everybody's creating an app for everything, or just expanding social media or new ways to communicate. We're saturated with that. We don't need that anymore. We need new ways of cleaning the planet, new ways of finding clean sources of energy. We need new ways of, the vehicles or modes of transport being cleaner, ways to clean up societies, ways to breathe cleaner air, to drink, to bathe in cleaner water. So we need that kind of ingenuity, and we need that accelerated. And I know that a lot of that type of science is there. It's been established. It's been developed. But we need to roll that out quickly. And but there are opportunities to go into space or to create technologies in space that can help this planet and save that planet. So I'm for that. Kind of that space traveling or space or orbital traversing, leading to something that because it can. And that science is there. It's been proven. And we did it before, like in terms of what NASA was doing, going up in the big space race from the 50s and 60s. That contributed to a lot of those, some of those technologies that we enjoy now. So I'm for that aspect of it. But to Mr. Rick's point, yeah, I do cringe. And I do think that it's highly irresponsible, for, human beings here, because they're super wealthy, to just leave the planet in a lurch just so they can escape the conditions here. No, it's use your resources to fix what's going on here. As far as climate crisis, they have the resources to do so while they're busy going up into space. So, but my bottom line is, let's be smart about that conversation, and let's now inject and insert ourselves in that conversation, and stop being dismissive and silly and ridiculous and just saying, oh, it's just these billionaires going to space. I don't have time for that. It's like, okay, I mean, I get that, but just let's not be so quickly dismissive of it, because there's some important developments that are going on that are going to create some real trends and disruptions as we get further into the 21st century. I think I still had you there, Mr. Rick. You were still there? You had like one more word to say? No, Mr. Rick is gone. All right, let me go to JR out of Cheltenham, who's calling in for a reality check. JR, what's up?
Peace and love, family.
Peace. How are you doing, sir?
Brother Charles, I'm getting better, Brother Charles. I'm giving you the update, just like Brother Rick's challenges. My challenges are getting better also with my health.
Okay.
But I just saw the Summer of Soul, Charles, the movie that they made about the Black Woodstock.
I haven't seen that yet. How was it?
Well, it was very indicative of the same situation. Like, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
After they were interviewing people about the concert and what they thought about the fact that year, the year I graduated high school, 1969, Whitey was on the moon. Gil Scott-Heron said, Whitey went to the moon. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Now. Okay, so the more things change, the more they stay the same. Here we are, 50
years. They stay the same.
Okay, but we get out of space flight. We got satellites, we got cell phones, more ways to control the society. I mean, technology is great, but, if the technology is not benefiting the majority of human beings on this planet,
I hear you.
Forget the technology, man.
Well, so I'll say this. I partly agree with you, Brother JR. I respect that where you're coming from on that. I will say this. So let's force them. Let's force ourselves. Let's force society. Let's force governments. Let's force the scientists. Let's force these folks to create technologies that do make this a better place to live on, that do enhance the quality of life. That's why I think this is an important moment in this discussion. While people like Jeff Bezos and others and billionaires are going up into space, let's inject ourselves as a community in that discussion and say, hey, hold up a second. While y'all in space, how are you going to use this to better the planet?
Boycott Amazon. I mean, Amazon is controlling. The richest man on the planet.
That's a hard proposition. That's a hard proposition. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I hear you. Theoretically, I would love to do that.
We have the power of the dollar in our pocket, but the politicians get bought out and sell us out, and what do we have? I mean, it's more important than ever, like you said, to get our voices heard, and stop submitting to colonization. I mean, that's what it's always been about. Let's take it back a couple hundred years. Where what they do when they colonized Africa, what they do, steal all the resources, and bring it, stole the land, and enslaved people to work for them. What would they do if they went to the moon? They would take cheap labor up there, to colonize the moon, colonize the Mars, or whatever, using cheap labor. It's all about the labor to create the wealth, Charles. So let's try to get in where we can make an impact, early, and not submit to this colonization, that has caused us chaos and climate change and all these conditions down on Earth. They done messed up the Earth. Amazon itself is creating so much pollution. Make them accountable, man.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think that's that's where you're headed with that. The kind of discussion you're having, that's the smart discussion we need to be having now.
Yes,
that's important. While we're watching these developments take place, and preparing our young people for that next phase, for that next stage, and for these big changes, these big trends that are happening in this century. That's happening in their lifetimes, and making sure that they're not just a part of it, making sure that they're not targeted by it, making sure that they're not just participants in it. I like to see our young people in our communities being leaders in it. We be the leaders because we're sensitive. That you see what I'm saying, Brother JR? We're sensitive to those kinds of issues. We're naturally, as a people, as a community, we're the ones who are sensitive to those types of issues concerning colonization, concerning equity, concerning deconstructing and eliminating racism. We're the ones who are naturally, it's in our DNA, it's been built into our DNA, that are naturally sensitive to and are among the keys to countering that kind of activity, that kind of destruction. And so, like, I like to see us be leaders in that conversation and leaders in those trends. I really do, and I think that's where the conversation needs to head. You still there, Mr. JR? You want to add one last thought? Sure.
One last comment, Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes, sir.
So my son's refusing to get vaccinated. Okay, I know he's telling me, you watch too much news, Dad. No, you watching too much Facebook, son, because that's what's creating all this anti-vax, backlash, and that's where we have to, try to make an impact.
You know what you should tell your son? You know what people should start telling folks? I used to say this last year when people were talking about they weren't going to vote. Not getting vaccinated right now is about the most white supremacist thing that you can do.
Too much Facebook, Charles.
I'm being blunt. Like, I hear you. And being on Facebook and accepting that information as truth is about the most white supremacist thing anyone, including, no disrespect to you, but maybe you have to be blunt with your son like that. Hey, son, you don't like racism, right? You know what white supremacy is, right? I can't stand that. It's like, well, stop being a white supremacist and get vaccinated.
Yeah, he's thoroughly infiltrated into the he's thoroughly infiltrated into the biracial community. He graduated from Cheltenham, Charles, so he has more white friends than black, because they actually traumatized my son. A black group came up and traumatized him, took his iPhone and they just like beat him down, man. 5 of them, So now he's very apprehensive about being around black folks, but
got you.
That's the situation with him, and
that's that bullying thing. That bullying issue is real. It's always been real in the community. And so we're ashamed to talk about it, or we're ashamed to put like our young people, our kids, in place when they inflict it on other young people and other people in our community. Like, we don't want to talk about it, and so we deflect on it, and we need to see that's one of those cases. And now we got someone lost. But Brother Elder JR, thank you for calling. I appreciate those comments. I appreciate your honesty and candor too. That was good. That was a good conversation. So I look forward. Please stay safe, stay healthy. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Looking forward to your next call. Let me take a break. Everyone who's online right now, hold on. We're going to take you right after this break. 215-634-8065, 8663-610900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Samantha from Leo's Apparel on Germantown and Lehigh Ave. Open from 9:30 to 5:30, Monday through Saturday. We have the hottest selection of boys' dress suits and casual sportswear for boys, sizes 2T to 20. Men, let me tell you, we got in a large shipment of straws from Stetson. We have new linen and dress suits. Biggest selection of Stacey Adams shoes. Get an extra WURD 10% discount.
The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and ComfortTech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
Join Nick Taliaferro Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. for a very special simulcast conversation on WURD and WVON Radio in Chicago. Hosted by WURD's own Nick Taliaferro and WVON's Matt McGill and Kimberly E. Goen on the impact of violence in Philadelphia and Chicago. That's Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. exclusively on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com. Simulcast on WVON. 2 of the only black-owned talk radio stations in the nation join forces for a powerful and timely conversation.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk.
Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour. This year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, North, West, and South Philly. I'm Tiffany Bacon. I will broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Our next stop is Penrose Playground, 1101 West Susquehanna Avenue, Friday, July 23rd. Enjoy a special feature on the Summer Olympics, meet special guests, and stand with WURD. Be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of the Black community. Show your support and join or renew your 4WURD membership on site. That's the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour at Penrose Playground from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. WURD, showing love this summer.
The WURD Radio Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Comcast and supported by Pico, Keystone First, and Ready Set Philly.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, welcome back to Reality Check, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's get a question in from Maurice out of North Philly, calling for a Reality Check. Maurice, what's up? What can I do for you?
Everything.
All right.
You had a guest on, a sister out of Wisconsin. She was talking about the census taxes.
Yeah.
You had three other brothers on, and yourself. You described one brother described the violence. One of them described the space air, and you described the environment. Do you see how that's all tied into taxes, including the violence?
Do I see how that's all tied to that? I missed that.
Do you see how everything from your guest being on from Wisconsin,
Yeah.
to Rick from Germany, to the brother from Sheldenham.
Oh, how do I see how it's all tied together?
All tied together.
I do, yeah.
Do you see how it's related to taxes?
Taxes?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, tell us.
It's related to taxes, dog. The catch is this, dog. We got to find out why it's related to taxes. As long as you have violence in the community, you can't get what? You're never going to get a bank loan in that community. There's no value there. If there's no value there, the taxes are higher. We have to find and study why this is the loop. Why do our tax dollars go to the census when people go to prison? How is that tied into the Black community?
Yeah.
And why is a rope around it? So when you move a piece from the community, that dollar sign is attached to him automatically, and you look at 7 to 10 cash streams that attach to that one person through the tax system. Why? This is why we are in need for a Black American Economic Summit. Because everything that you just had a conversation on is dealing with the economics and dealing with taxing.
I think you just need a Black People's Economic Summit. I think you need it where it's global. I don't think it should be just Black American focused. I think it should be Black American, Black Caribbean, Black African, and then we figure out like how do we kind of like get into some sort of big kind of global economic infrastructure. That's why I think that should be. I think we're at that stage now.
I emailed you on that, Charles. I emailed you about an African Diaspora Economic Summit. I just now use the word term Black, but I sent an email to you describing the African Diaspora.
I missed that.
Economic
Okay.
Summit.
Or did I miss that? Maybe I did see that. I didn't have a chance to respond to it, Maurice, but I'm going to go back and check it.
The question is, how are the taxes? And once we answer that question, because this is an answer, and then we understand what's going on around the violence, around the pollution, around the environment, all that is associated to the tax game.
Interesting.
And we are unjustly getting higher taxes than everyone else with lower wages.
Yeah, we don't explore that enough. Maurice, let me let you go because I want to make sure I give some time to some other folks. Thank you for raising that. So I want to check back on that email that you just said you sent me, and then 2, I like where you're headed with that. I want to explore that more on taxes. So send me some more on that, and we'll go from there. Let me go to thanks, Maurice. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for raising that. That's a real good point. Let me go to Tony out of North Philly calling in for a reality check.
How you doing, Charles?
Hey, how are you doing?
It's me. You got me?
Yes, sir, Brother Tony.
Yeah, listen, this is a little offbeat, but
But if you notice, like Zuckerberg and Bezos, when I see them, I look in their eyes, they don't look like humans. They look like they clones or something. For real, you look in their eyes next time you see them. I'm just saying, man. And then
yeah, there's not a whole lot of blinking going on, right? Mitch McConnell's another one.
Yeah, but listen.
Yeah, they don't blink.
Ironically, they at the top of
that's not off base. That's not off base. It's spot on, right?
They on the top of the technology and the money and the space. So you know, like they might remember back in the day, used to talk about cloning people. But listen, now technology ain't all that much.
Well, at least they figured out some technology to make them not blink, right?
yeah, called cloning. But listen,
right.
But
all right.
You know, if technology's all that strong, how come ain't nobody built no pyramids yet that last for thousands of years?
Okay.
You know what I mean? That was mathematical technology that we use.
Because people aren't thinking about durability now like they used to. So people are just thinking about making money. How come they don't make houses like they used to?
But wait a minute, Charles.
The house I grew up in North Philly, made of brick. A much more resilient house, a stronger house than probably the house I'm growing up that I'm living in now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They just don't make things like they used to because everybody's trying to make a quick buck.
Old technology. That's what I'm getting at. But one more thing. Listen, talking about we from the sun. We from another planet. We from the sun. So what they talking about? And y'all had a program on about the Dogon people. They track a planet that comes down every 200 years, and they say that's where they from, the Dogon people in Africa. Now, technology, their mathematics got to be spot on for them to track every 200 years when one generation don't even be alive. You know, man, we realize our mental capabilities of who we are, you know what I mean? And realize where we at right now is like child's play from what we really capable of doing. All right, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Brother Tony. Some great reflections from Brother Tony. The Dogon people of Africa are based in Mali, West Africa. So just for and also parts of Burkina Faso. So it's about like close to 1 million Dogons in Western Africa. So that's interesting. And yet it's I think it's called the Sirius Mystery, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I did hear about that at some point. I haven't read up on that for a long time, but I appreciate you saying that, Brother Tony, here on Reality Check. We're about to wrap up very shortly this Tuesday edition of Reality Check. So let's take one more call. Joseph out of Massachusetts calling in for a Reality Check. Joseph, what's good? Long time to hear.
Long time to hear from you.
Yeah, I didn't hear from you. Didn't hear from you, brother. All right.
Mr. Ellison.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Who global warming is benefiting the most in the world? What country?
Yeah.
Russia. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Russia is 1/6 of the land mass in the world.
That's right. I have been watching that very closely. You're absolutely spot on with that. Thank you, Joseph.
They estimate that Antarctica has like 1 trillion gallons of oil or natural gas sitting in there. It's the old frontier. You hear about the new frontier with Jeff Burke, but what's his last name in space? Russians claiming Antarctica. They're building an air base there. They got other functions going on. They flying the Russian flag in the Antarctica Sea. Because of global warming, the ice is melting. So places where we couldn't go before, Russia has 34 icebreakers. You know how difficult, expensive icebreaker is. China has 4. America has 2. So we spend all our money on weapons instead of thinking. And one thing with space, I had the population class at the University of Houston, and the professor always stressed the biggest problem the world faces is overpopulation, too many people on the planet. We've been so successful, we overwhelming the planet, but the problem is the billionaires. We waste 40% of our food production. We talk a lot about agriculture, back to basics. We need to get back to small farming. I majored in agriculture at State University of New York Junior College. And I tell you, I never even thought about using my degree getting a job because it don't pay much, it don't pay at all. And last point, they say a farmer with 100 cows can't afford to take a vacation, but a farmer with 1,000 cows can afford to take it. He can always hire help. The 100 cow milk guy, He can't. He got to do it himself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
go back to the
Joseph,
days
yeah,
before-
I'm going to have to let you go because, unfortunately, because we're running up on time here. So I want to make sure I transition to the next show. But some good points, I mean, especially the points you were making about Russia and about, like, you know, melting glaciers, melting snow, melting ice, and the poles, you know, particularly in places like the Arctic. And the Russians are now finding, Russian military primarily is finding opportunities to crack through. You get icebreakers to crack through a lot of that ice since it's melting and find more sources of natural gas and so of oil and of fossil fuels, and that's not a good development at all. And there's also a recipe for conflict. There's tensions that are growing in the poles, particularly in the North Pole and the Arctic, between U.S. and Russian military interest. So that's something that we had to keep a watchful eye on. So thanks for that, Joseph. I appreciate you. The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders will be coming up next very shortly in the next few minutes here on WURD. So keep your WURD radio dial locked in at 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. So I'm at Ellison Report, by the way, on twitter.com. Also, don't forget to go to the B Note, THEBE note.com for some more content and insights beyond what we talk about on this program. So definitely you can subscribe to it as well as free newsletter. And, you know, so join many subscribers. We got over a few thousand subscribers who are subscribed to the bnote.com. So be a part of that today. Want to thank Troy Wilmore as well on the board of still. So everyone else, and you should thank him too. Want to thank folks who were on the Word TV Facebook live stream as well. Thanks for a very healthy, heady, and robust discussion and some writing there. What was it? Dolores Davis was telling me that I said a big mouthful. Yes, we have to get this earth together. We must start with sea and land, trees, all greenery, and it's not being said. If these viruses are not already airborne, we should know air quality. We're supposed to know water quality, which is what environment must come up to. So appreciate that, Dolores. Thanks so much. And everyone else she gets the last word on the Word TV Facebook live stream. So I appreciate that. Everyone in Philadelphia and beyond, want you to stay sharp, stay smart. More importantly, please stay safe out there. All right. So we got Reality Check Wednesday, 10 a.m. sharp tomorrow. So God willing, I will be there with you. We can talk some more. But everyone, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy.